It's so self-evident. I almost didn't need to say it, but it still needed to be said. It's just
who are the Outlaws replacing?
The Outlaws are replacing the Chrome.
Okay.
I mean, that was the weakest identity in the PLL. Welcome to the Crosse Commission Podcast.
Philadelphia Water Dogs.
Philadelphia Water Dogs. It's like this is the biggest. Now, yeah, this is obviously a play for probably Jordy because that's the team that Barstool has equity in or something.
Yeah, to be like, have we defined exactly what does equity mean? Like, I'd love to know, like, truly what equity in this context
really
actually means.
Interesting if that trademark suit with the youth team Chaos who sued the PLL, sorry, for the name Chaos. Like, if through discovery you do get something about the organization's breakdown, and kind of like the MLL lawsuit, with that one. I think it was the one. I think we broke that article.
Yes, we did.
Yes. College Cross, what a site that was.
Yeah, no, it was that's big day journalism that day. But and the judge's order that kind of broke down about like the MLL's like ownership structure. But
I understand sort of like familiarity and things like that, and I guess technically the leagues did merge.
Yeah,
but
quote unquote, yeah.
Like the idea of, I guess, I don't know, preserving in any way like MLL identity.
The Denver Outlaws they got good numbers there at Mile High back in the day.
That's true. And the Cannons, I guess.
The Boston Cannons, were they really actually a thing, or is it just doing fan service to the 10 loud people on lacrosse Twitter that were Boston?
I feel like it's all fan service to.
That's specifically for Belichick and Mr. Kraft.
Belichick don't care about that. He's gonna be living in Annapolis and commuting to Ashburn in a year. Belichick's gonna be in all the games.
They're gonna move the whips to FedEx Field.
I was gonna say, I thought it was gonna be the new Washington Commanders. I was waiting for you to be like, Bill Belichick. That's why I said it. Okay.
Belichick's like he's gonna be
3 minutes in for that.
He's gonna be at Belichick's gonna be on the Navy sidelines, like the entire year next year,
coaching them,
just watching over Amplo. They're gonna pan the bill like every game. I wonder what Bill would think about this.
Just hanging out in Naptown.
That's where he lives, or at least he has a house there, I think. So like, yeah, that's where he would definitely live if he took the commander's job. I think he has a house in Annapolis. His dad.
Would he also have Hopkins season tickets because he likes wearing that polo?
He go to all the games. He go
all the
UMBC, Loyola.
You just see Belichick and Zimmerman just hanging out at UMBC games.
He'll go to some Salisbury games.
Was the Hopkins thing or was he just friends with Petra?
That's the thing. That was a big deal for me. I was like, that's why I didn't really put it.
I mean, we never saw him at a Cuse game, so maybe that answers the question.
I think he grew up a Hopkins fan, and then
he grew up in because his dad coached at Navy.
Yeah.
So he grew up in Annapolis. So like that's where like the ties come in. Yeah, is that like he grew up in that whole area. He's gonna do scouting. He's gonna be doing scouting for like who he wants to draft for the Commanders.
Definitely some Navy guys.
The film room is named after him, so hopefully that.
So
he's always welcome.
I know that the PLL is moving away from the college alumni aspect of it, but there's nothing more funnier than the possibility of the Maryland Whipsnakes home base being Homewood Field.
Oh yeah.
Maryland Whipsnake is like what the hell is a whipsnake?
Like
what? It's like the what the hell is a wahoo deal.
I mean, the one that makes the most sense is California Redwoods. I mean, that was like tailor-made the second they announced that brand. That it's like, yeah, we're eventually going to play somewhere in California.
California Redwoods works, and they're in San Jose, so they're in Northern California too.
So that works.
That's good. The New York Atlas works. Atlas kind of seems, sort of like big city. Granted, they're on Long Island, but.
They should have
played at Columbia. They should have played at Columbia. If they could have got Columbia to agree to it, but that would have been like.
The thing is, I don't think the New York Atlas have officially announced the venue yet, so they can play in Buffalo.
I'm just going off Wikipedia.
I know Wikipedia says it's at Stewart, but they can play in Stony Brook. They can play in Buffalo. They can play in Lake Placid during Lake Placid weekend as hosting. They could be in Plattsburgh. They could be in Syracuse. They could be in Rochester. For that, we know they could play in the infield of Watkins Glen International. Who's to say? They can play in all.
If you gotta be New York, you gotta come on. You gotta play. I mean, I don't know. Actually, I guess the sporting tradition in American sports is you call yourself New York, you play somewhere else with the Giants.
You play in Harrison, New Jersey.
They should. I was just gonna say they should have a team in North Jersey still call it New York. That'd be great.
Or they could play they could even play in Connecticut. That was being
playing Greenwich.
Yeah.
That'd be funny. Just this where all the New Yorkers live.
Scarsdale. Put it on Scarsdale.
It's like, what was it when it was who was it? Marty St. Louis, Ryan, when he got that he requested the trade to the Rangers because he lived in Greenwich.
Yeah. And I think that the Rangers is like practice facilities, like
it's very close to Connecticut, I think.
Yeah, I think it's on the border. Something.
Like New York and Connecticut, yeah.
Yeah, let me just look that up. I mean, they basically once the Whalers left, they claimed Hartford. So
WWE, is the New York territory, and they're based in Stamford, Connecticut.
Tarrytown, New York. So they're nowhere near the city. The Rangers practice facility. That's north of the frickin' Tappan Zee Bridge. I refuse to call it the Como Bridge. That's north. The Rangers practice facility is north of the Tappan Zee, and the Knicks practice facilities in like White Plains or something. Like the Knicks and Rangers practice facilities are nowhere near Manhattan.
At least it's Mario Cuomo, right? Please tell me is that.
It is Mario Cuomo.
Okay.
Andrew was the one who ham-fisted the name for what it's worth. He's the one who named the bridge after his dad, but it is Mario.
Okay.
Right. But Andrew might be running for mayor of New York. Did you hear that
one? Cuomo Adams, the election of the century. God, I love New York.
If you can make it in this town, you can make it anywhere.
God bless ranked balloting primaries.
New York is back.
It's like those Knicks Visions things where they just see all the Knicks fans screaming.
Knicks tape.
We're back! We're back!
Bing bong!
Oh, God. Come on, Adams. Oh, my God.
To try and get this back on. You also had the Carolina Chaos in Charlotte. I
have no other takes.
Utah Archers. So there you go. There's your PLL things. But we actually do have lacrosse news because the coaching carousel of 2023. I'm going to freaking Thanksgiving. When the hell is this going to end?
I don't know. If Maryland hires a head coach from somewhere, that could really get it spicy. That'd be, that'd definitely be that definitely liven things up. But yeah, I mean, this is, Maryland, Syracuse, Virginia, North Carolina, all change coordinators this all season. Denver, I don't know. See, that's a lot of changes.
Yeah. So what we're alluding to is that Jake Bernhardt has left Maryland to take the head coaching job at Colby College in D3. So Maryland's in need for an OC.
Yeah, I think it caught everyone by surprise. Certainly, when I saw the news, I was, shocked. I think when Adam put it in the group chat, his response was, "What the fuck?" When I saw that, I knew it was going to be something, but I don't. What came to mind wasn't.
Yeah, when he posts something like that in our group DM, it's probably that Syracuse has done something. So for it to be Maryland's like, what?
That caught me by surprise for sure. The timing is obviously interesting to say the least. Because it's post fall ball in November. We're 2.5 months away from the season, which is not the latest that Maryland's had to hire an offensive coordinator in the last 4 years. Because obviously they hired Benson with like a couple weeks to go. I think in terms of, I think everyone kind of wants, like, what's the story here? What's the situation? Because the timing's odd. It's a odd job to take in a sense. You don't usually see a coordinator at a school like Maryland take I'm sure maybe he wanted to be a head coach. Was looking for that opportunity, but you don't see them take D3 coaching job because. Look, I don't know what Colby's paying him, but I'd be shocked if it matches what he was making in Maryland. It gets you out of the D1 loop, because D1, that we've seen, with Chris Ryan going to Mount, there's room for. I'm not like, if he does well, I think it's possible that he could, get a D1 coaching job. But it's, it's not, what you sort of would, I guess, expect, necessarily. So I think there's probably multiple things at play here. Maryland's offense wasn't good last year. That's, like everybody knows that. Everybody saw it based on, the stats back it up. Just watching them, there was very few moments, even when Maryland played well offensively, that they didn't really have to work for it. It was hard, like, for them to score goals. I'm sure that obviously led to, in the team meeting rooms and things like that, a lot of just kind of work and towards like figuring out what they had to do to get it going the way that the team hoped for, and it came on. You got guys like Braden Erksa, obviously, the breakout star, and you had guys later in the year, guys like Eric Spanos and Zach Whittier came on, and they got better towards the end of the year for sure. But it wasn't like it wasn't when Benson came in and they just started scoring 15 goals a game every week. And when you score 15 goals a game every week and you're the number one team in the country, life's pretty good. It's not a lot of people got a lot to complain about. When you're struggling like that, I mean, it's tough for everybody. And, additionally, I don't know that this for sure is a factor, but it might, when Maryland's offense is going to be Maryland's offense, and this is going to be true no matter who they hire. John Tillman created this offense and kind of conceptualized like what he wanted it to be with the help of J.O. Reppert in the offseason in 2019 going into 2020. Like that, this is, it's Tillman's offense to a big degree. John Tillman's an offensive coach. Like that's like what though he's not kind of seen that way, because like obviously he has his handprints everywhere in the program. That's what he does. But like John Tillman's background is he was an offensive coordinator at Navy. So like it's going to be, he has a view of how he wants the offense to run. It's different to say like Virginia. Lars Tiffany's a defensive guy. That is, and to a big degree, like Kip Turner's defensive coordinator. That's Lars' defense. So it's a similar deal, but offensively, Lars hired Kerwin to coach the offense, and now he hired Kevin Cassis, and Kevin Cassis is going to have, I don't know if it's entirely free reign, but he's going to have a, pretty, I think, kind of blank slate to do what he wants to do with that offense. Yale, that's Andy Shea's defense. That's what Andy Shea does, is defensively. And obviously hasn't been good last couple, when it was at its peak, it was humming. Shea hires other guys kind of, can coach the offense. But depending on the coach, I'm sure it's a different, variety of how much leeway they get. But that's Shea's defense. Petro at Hopkins, that was Petro's defense. And so whereas Benson had a lot of, range to do what he wanted with the offense. So this happens in schools. They have the coaches that have their kind of, sort of thing inside that they kind of focus a bit more. With Tillman, it's his offense. And now, did Vermont do some similar things to Maryland? Yeah, but they also did some, kind of, there are differences there. It was never there. It's no one, thing. And so, is it possible that there was maybe tension between, Bernhardt wanted to do kind of more of his own kind of ideas for offense, and Tillman is this is what we do? I think that's possible. I think also when you look at, with this one, Maryland, the press release mentioned that, they're closer to family. I think that's probably a reasonable assumption too, that played a role. He had coached in Vermont for quite a while. They have family I think him and his wife both have family in New England. So Vermont obviously was closer to there, even though, yes, he played at Maryland, as we all know. That's probably easier for them. It's probably a, nicer situation in terms of, the family. I think it's probably to some degree all of those things. Look, you don't take a job in November after fall and everything. If it was working perfectly, I think he's still there. Do I think it's also the case of he got fired or told go find another job? No, I don't necessarily think it was that. But I think he got seems like a good situation, gets to be a head coach, gets to be closer to family, and Maryland will go after another offensive coordinator. And based on what Tillman's track record, this is what you'd call this. In terms of Bernhardt's insight, it lasted a year and it wasn't great. This is a C in terms of what grade you'd give this, how it worked out. Gosh, that's the first assistant Tillman's had that in I don't know how long that you wouldn't give an A to. Jesse's. Yeah. So Jesse's did a great job with the defense. Benson was a freaking grand slam. JL, they won the championship with. Connery did a great job for a long time. They won a championship with him. Warren, when he got nobody has this one didn't quite work. You could say, but other than that, who's got a better track record of replacing assistants than Tillman does? So I think they'll hire a very good offensive coordinator, and that offensive coordinator, and this is the thing, to be fair to Jake, he didn't have what Benson walked into. Benson walked into Jared Bernhardt and Logan Wisnowski's in 2 weeks. Jake didn't have that.
And we said that, last year that Maryland, had to replace some guys on the offensive end. So kind of what would year 2 look like? We're not going to find out, but this is the type of program where you can kind of plug and play a coordinator and good things are generally going to happen, or almost certainly going to happen. It's just that maybe Bernhardt came in at the wrong year.
Yeah, he came in the toughest situation they've had in terms of, replacing guys. Aside from 14, where they replaced, that was Ryan Moran was still there. So Yeah, that one you give like, I don't know. I mean, they made 2 championships. Like, was the offense necessarily the, primary driver of that? Not per se, but I'd give that like, I still think that was like I think that was like a B. I think that went fine. Like Moran parlayed it into Pat Spencer and then parlayed that into a head coaching job. So, like it still worked out pretty well, for him. Like, look, Jake's the first one. I mean, Jesse hasn't gone on yet, but I think that's got to be soon. He's the first one to leave and not get a head coaching job since Moran. And then Moran still wound up getting a head coaching job. Like, it just, it was like 2 years later. Well, I mean, look, and Jake got a head coach, but I mean, not D1. So, yeah, like, there's something to that probably. Yeah, like, they got good options, and I think they'll get one. I think they got 3 options, I think, that I'd look at. And if they hire any one of them, I think they'll all do a good job. Because, yeah, like, what are they walking into this year? They're walking into Eric Molliver coming back, and they're walking into Urksa as a sophomore, and there's Spanos as a sophomore, and Whittier and those guys, and they've got, pretty much, it's a much better situation to walk into.
Big decisions. Where would you go, Jake? Who's the first person you're interviewing?
Phipps. I think that's what they'll target. Do they get him? I don't know. Phipps has got as we've talked about, he loves Annapolis. Granted, he can stay in. He doesn't have to move. Like, he doesn't have to move his stuff to take the job, which is always positive. Like, there's no. I mean, he's paid incredibly well at Navy. I don't know where he ranks as far as, like, I think there's rumors that he's like the highest paid assistant in the country. Is he for sure? I don't know. It feels hard to think that he got paid more than Petro got paid at Syracuse last year. But look, Navy pays really well.
And the federal government backing you.
Navy pays very well, because as we know, Navy really wants to freaking win, and they had to lure him away from Georgetown, where he was doing really well. Does Maryland also pay well? Yes. Obviously, Mike Phipps is a Maryland alumni, so there's that factor. I believe his wife was his wife, I think, an alumni as well, because I'm pretty sure, yeah, she played on the Maryland team. So yeah, it's his. I think his wife's Katie's. No, yeah, his wife is Kayla McFadden. So I believe. No, she's married Brian Phipps. Pardon me. No, but yeah, the other Mike's brother. So, like, do they have a chance to get him? Yeah, I think they do. Alum does Mike Phipps want to be a head coach? I assume he does. Like, and is there a better track path to being a head coach than coaching in Maryland? It's a pretty good one. So. I mean, he's the guy I'd go with. I think if you can get him, he did really well in Navy the first go around. He did a great job kind of getting Georgetown on the path to where they, have gone, and turning that offense around with Buccaro and Jake Caraway, a friend of the podcast. And he knows the recruiting landscape very well. He'd help there. So that's probably where I'd go. If he says no, then, and this is like, I'm just mapping like who the options are, like in terms, like look, they've done 2 offensive coordinator searches in the last like 4 years, so you kind of know. Like, Phipps has been on the list, it hasn't happened, but he's been on the list. Jake Bernhardt was on the list. He got it. Bobby was on the list the first time and got it. The other two that have been on the list are Mike Janechuk, who, I mean, it feels like, I mean, like you figure at something like he's going to get it. Like, and I honestly kind of thought he'd get it last time. Because, you know, we did talk, like, we talked about this when they hired Jake Bernhardt. Like, having both of them on staff, like, and then they also hired Jared. Like, and this is the thing with like all, like, they are all those are intense dudes. Like, they are wired different than most guys. Like, and that might just be, like I said, like, if it doesn't work, like, what's the factor? Like, Bobby was a perfect compliment because he's so even keeled and he's so, you know, and I think that worked well with Tillman. Like, Tillman, intense guy, you know, like, not, you know, I mean, he's not a, you know, demonstrative, like, you know, on the sideline, but he's like, if you know anything about like how that program operates, it's intense. And like, where do you get that from? The head coach, like, you know, he sets the culture comes from that. Jesse's very intense. Jake Bernhardt's very intense. Jared's very intense. Like, it's, and Jared Nugget is like, that's just a weird kind of, it potentially, like, as far as a mix, you need a balance, and maybe there wasn't a balance, you know, enough one. So that's kind of why I thought they might go with Janechuk last year. Janechuk's had great success. He's going to Stony Brook, and their offenses have improved since he, you know, got there. They were 23rd. They had a better, I mean, as far as adjusted offensive efficiency goes, they actually ranked higher than Maryland last year. They've been, since he's got there, like, you know, 21st, I mean, 10th in 2021, 38 in 2022, 23rd in 2023, two top 25 offenses. Remember, he had that offense at Sacred Heart with Max Tuttle and Joe Sagasi that ranked like in the top 15 or 20 of offensive. Like, they were really good on offense. I think it was 2019. So he's had success and hasn't been in a big program yet, but had success. I taught this, but like recruiting wise with Janechuk, he has ties on Long Island that's an area Maryland hasn't recruited, you know, particularly, you know, extensively over the last couple years. So that could potentially be a tie in there. I'm pretty sure Janechuk is a St. Anthony's guy, I think. And that, you know, so obviously that's, you know, what he's, you know, made a bunch of sense for as a hire for Stony Brook. So, you know, and then, so I think Janechuk might be the, you know, in terms of these three names, I think he's would do well and is most attainable because it's an obvious upgrade for him in pay and then situation. And then the last one, who they talked to last time but was not interested, is Jim Mitchell. They've talked to Mitchell like twice, I believe. Like, I know they talked to him last time, and I presume they talked to him when it was available in 20 as well, or 21. Mitchell, like, proven offensive success at Princeton, coached in the Big Ten at Rutgers, proven offensive success there. Recruiter, good. Like, he checks the boxes. Now, he wasn't interested last time, so do I expect that he'd be interested on, like, leaving Princeton in November? I don't think so, but those are the three. Like, now, could they go outside that? Like, I was thinking, you know, would they try and do what they would with Benson and find like somebody who's not like a experienced, and Mitchell's been a head coach, but he was there for like what, a year. Bobby had a bunch of success and had been for a long time. And so I wonder if they might go for someone like that. But I don't know who's out there that is a proven, experienced offensive coordinator that you could just kind of hire, that's unemployed, that like you could hire. I don't know that guy exists right now. And if you wanted to go experienced offensive coordinator just in general, like kind of old, like, I don't know that there's that guy to go to. I don't, you know, like the best offense, like you're not, you know, kind of who are you looking at? I think it's all, there's also, I guess the last one, I forgot, is John Hawes at Penn State. Another alum. Penn State's offense was I was kind of questioning Hawes last time because he hadn't had the success, or the Penn State's offense hadn't had the success without Grenament. This year they did. But again, we're talking, is John Hawes going to leave Penn State in November to go in conference? That'd be spicy. So I don't. Yeah, I think if you're talking, I think they go for Phipps. Could they make it happen? It's possible. I would put Chanachuk as probably the most likely, though. Would be my, essentially, again, like I'm just looking at anyone else you can kind of look. Tillman generally, Bobby was out of the norm. It was not someone who has either played for him or Bobby was the last one since that didn't play for him of the last 4 or 5 guys he's hired, because JL played for him at Navy, Jesse played for him in Maryland, Jake played for him in Maryland. That's, and then when he came into Maryland, he Moran was a Maryland guy. Warren was coached with him at Harvard, I believe. So yeah, that's generally, the path they sort of have followed. And now I think you could argue for maybe I think you could argue for switching it up a bit. And I think if it's not Chanachuk, you would be switching it up, in some degree. I mean, Phipps played at Maryland, but he hadn't coached with Tillman. Mitchell would be like Benson, just totally outside of the family in any degree. That would be just, let's hire the best offensive coordinator we can. But again, is that possibly he wasn't interested last time because, hey, he's got a very good job. And I don't know if he will be on short notice this time. So yes, but again, this is all I'm just throwing educated guesses. I'm not suggesting any of them are going to take the job or that they have interest in it. To be fair, though, you should have interest, at least if not to, go back to your other job and be like, can I get something out of this? It's Maryland's an offensive. What's been a better gig in the last 6 or 7 years than Maryland offensive coordinator? 3 guys have won the Tewaaraton. It's a hell of a job. And you can parlay it into, something good. So it's a heck of a job. That's why they will get a good coach. It's just a matter of, I guess, we'll see who they go with.
I wonder if they could pull a head coach, or even if that would be something that, just because, kind of similar to what Lars did down in Virginia, find a coach that maybe feels that they've done what they can so far.
Syracuse,
Absolutely.
I think it's too late in the calendar, I think, for them to poach a head coach. If this was a move that was done in June or July, absolutely. I don't know if you could get a head coach with this quick of a turnaround.
It'd have to be someone who is, I don't know, not satisfied with their situation.
So, I was thinking someone that kind of what happened with Lars. He was probably thinking about this previously before making a call to Lehigh. But I'm just thinking of
does that guy exist?
Someone that I was thinking someone that they talked to that 2021 that maybe we didn't hear about.
We haven't heard about. I don't know that there's an offensive. If you just go offensive coaches and who's having success, it's Madeline, he's not taking it. Busick, not taking it. Ray was like they talked. I mentioned Ray with no, Ray's defensive. Yeah, that's no. Shamati's not taking it. You know. Yeah, like
Gary Gates not taking it, but you can't put anything past Syracuse athletics these days.
Wilkinson.
I don't know. Wilkinson, I feel like committed to that Marist program.
I don't know that. Like, I wouldn't. No, I mean, I like Keegan Wilkinson a lot. I don't think that makes sense. Like, I don't. I don't know that. Yeah, I just don't know that makes. I just don't think that name is. I don't think there's that name out there. You know, like
I keep thinking about Benson, and that was absolutely like just serendipity. I still remember the pod with Chris and I was just like. That news about Robert leaving, and I was just like, why not Benson? Because I was like, he's looking for a job from the area, obviously can coach in the Big Ten, and you need an assistant. And I'm trying to think of Connery, because that's another hop guy that someone hired. Like, that was 2015, did Connery come up?
Connery came in 2013.
2013? What was that? I know maybe you're a little young.
Connery was coaching at Fairfield, I think.
Yeah, it looks like it went from Siena, Penn State, Fairfield, then it moved over to 2013.
I don't.
Another guy outside the family that just there's a little bit even before we started podding. So
yeah, like I don't see, it. I mean, I'm not saying like head coach wouldn't be, if the guy existed. I just don't know that I mean, Cassis, though it wasn't on the radar. I mean, it leaked out a couple days before, like privately before it went, public, that like this could happen. And then Odirna from Manhattan, that was another one that I was thinking of, like from the jump, like I can kind of see that. Like I said, like if you're looking for like along that line, that could be one that makes sense. I'd be fascinated. I don't know if they'd have done it. If Metzbauer didn't go to Denver, like I'd be fascinated if they would have made that move. I don't know that they, but that'd be interesting. I'd be very interested if they would have done that. But obviously, no point. Those are the names, and at least those are the names that have been again on the list, and doesn't mean it's a guarantee Tillman goes to that list again, but I think they all make sense in a number of ways. Like they're all very good coaches with great track records. Phipps and Chanachuk are alums. Chanachuk played for Tillman. Recruiting, as far as Phipps and Phipps has recruited the area like his whole career. Chanachuk, I think, would be a good recruiter. Like he's a current player in the PLL. So, and obviously like ties along. I think Long Island maybe you kind of get into a different area. If they could make Mitchell happen, I'd be tempted on that one. Like, I just think what he's done at Princeton is, you think of all those guys Princeton lost on offense through those injuries, and then what they still were putting up towards the end of the year. That's pretty darn impressive. And then I look at it as like very kind of Maryland-esque in terms of like how much guys get better there, like year over year. Like Chris Brown, like was a goal scorer with Michael Sowers, and then by the end of his career, he ran the offense. Coulter Mackesy, as a freshman, was a shooter, and by the end of the year, we were talking about him as like a borderline Toronton candidate because he was putting up like 40 and 30. Like guys just get so much better there. But like, and the offenses, the principles are kind of similar in terms of like spacing, ball movement, things like that. I'd be really tempted on that. But again, like he said no last time, at least to like they talked to him and he was like, I'm good. Now, like if he had been receptive, would they have offered them a job? I don't know, maybe. But he wasn't receptive last time. And now you're talking timing, like Ryan's mentioned. And then also, as we, came out like this week, like they got the number one recruiting class in the country coming in. So like, he's got a lot, new stuff to work with, and Princeton's rolling, in terms of like what their momentum is. It's not coming to what it was off 2022, but it's still, they got momentum, a lot of positive momentum. So like, I'd be really interested in him, but I think they make Phipps say no first. That's, my educated, assumption is that they make Phipps say no first. And if he does, then I think it's probably Janachuk. I think it goes to Janachuk, but like I don't know for sure. And I'm just going off, some assumptions and then some scuttlebutt and things like that.
Well, definitely something to keep an eye on over the next few days. So wondering.
Yeah, I think we'll probably get more momentum Monday, probably after the holiday.
Yeah,
because I mean, it's got to get done. It has to get done by January. So I mean, it's like they could take time.
Preferably you want to get it done before the full semester ends, though.
Yeah, I think I mean, it's the sooner I think is always more ideal if you can get the guy in, and you can get him just kind of like talking with the players before they and kind of establishing that maybe the relationship to some degree before they go off for break. But is it absolutely pertinent? Like the Benson one was like, we got to get this done. Like it's this one, like you got a bit. Players don't come back until early January. So, and that's when this, obviously they will have somebody in place by then. And we'll, but again, like they're walking into a great situation. Like you got a bunch of talent to work with. You got recruiting classes coming up with more great talent. Like it's a good situation, to look into. Like I expect that. I think even if Jake could stay, like Maryland's offense is going to be great next year. I have very few doubts about that. I'm not saying it's going to be 21 and 22, but like, do I think it's going to be very good? Yeah, I think it's going to be a very good offense next year. I think they got a lot to like, and so whoever it is, I feel good that like the offense is going to be good for the this one didn't quite hit, but it's fine. Like everybody will be fine.
All righty. So elsewhere, we got some more schedule drops. Obviously not Maryland and Syracuse, as you got to wait till Christmas for those. But we did get Georgetown and Virginia's this week. We got Princeton's late last week. By the way, I've got to go back on my whole campaigning of bring back the Syracuse-Princeton game because it's back on hiatus this year.
No Ryan McDonald Day this year.
Flew too close to the sun.
It's disappointing. Yeah, it went too well, right?
It went too well. Syracuse is allergic to wanting to make money.
Too beautiful for this world.
I'm fascinated that got dropped off the schedule because most of them are 2-year deals. Like when you schedule somebody now, is that like 2 years? That means it's coming in 25. Like it could.
I'm going to guess that they are workshopping it back in. I guess because the Cornell game's back this year for the Orange. So they'll find a way to get both of them to work in the following year. I'm going to guess because of how well received it was this year that I would guess it'll be back in 2025.
They would have been a home game, right? Last year was at Princeton.
Yes.
Yeah, would have been.
That's even more odd,
It might also be because maybe Princeton didn't agree to it because they have so many road games this year. So maybe that's the reason to put it on hiatus. Because remember, last year we talked about the goated home schedule. Well, the consequences, you have to go on the road for all those games this year.
Gate wasn't able to convince Madeline like you could convince Milliman to play down in North Carolina, but for what would have been a home game at Syracuse.
That's why this got to bring back the Big City Classic.
Got to bring back the Big City Classic.
But this time it's Charlotte. That's where
medium.
Princeton also, both of them are the conference schedule has changed. Syracuse, it's going from the ACC is going back to 4, and they're playing the blatant RPI booster in towards the end of the year.
Disgraceful.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy to bring back that bit. So happy. It's a classic. It's like when you find an old shirt.
It just fits so well.
Like, oh yeah, May's gonna come around. It's been 5 years since I got to do that bit.
Oh my God.
Like it's just like bring on. Man, I've been looking at that shirt everywhere.
I mean, the more sacrilegious thing about Princeton's schedule, though, is the Cornell game on friggin' St. Patrick's Day weekend. What are we doing here?
It used to be a country, a proper country.
What the hell happened to this country? That's why kids don't say the Pledge of Allegiance.
We don't have losing our recipes.
That's
when did the last time has the Cornell game ever not been the last
regular game of the season? Yeah. And at that point, everyone on Princeton's campus is probably going to be in full basketball mode the way their basketball teams started the year. So it's like they're probably going to have another Cinderella run this year if they make it to the NCAA tournament. So, like, if the basketball team's in the NCAA tournament, no one's going to care about that game.
Is it a matter of so I guess my question is this a continual thing or is it for 1 year? Because like you mentioned, Rye, they go February 24th to March 10th without playing a home game. Like Princeton, buddy. Like I mean, this Monmouth and Manhattan to start the year, and then like this is it's like I was watching Band of Brothers. I'm like, this is like like it's like when they go off to Norman, like it's like like we're not those boys of like Tacoma anymore. It's like Princeton goes Maryland, College Park, February 24th. They're playing a weekend doubleheader.
Just unbelievable.
Against Carolina and
Duke.
A weekend doubleheader with Carolina and Duke. That's crazy.
Like they're friggin' SoCon team or something.
That's wild. And then they go back the next weekend and they play Rutgers in Piscataway. So 3 straight weekends, 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
None at
No.
I
mean, Piscataway is only 25 minutes away, but even
still a road game. For Rutgers, that's a big we've also hold up. Why is that game in Piscataway? That game was in Piscataway last year. The safe went to the one in 22 at 1952. So last year that meant that game was in Piscataway. So why is that game in Piscataway this year? Is that like a...
So they're at Rutgers, and last year was at Rutgers. Yeah, what's going on there? It's like back in the old day where Princeton played Hopkins on the road for all eternity. Every year it was at M&T Bank Stadium or Homewood.
Is that a goof on the schedule? Or is Rutgers' schedule out? No,
Rutgers' schedule is not out, but Princeton's is.
And Princeton's saying they're playing Rutgers and Piscataway. That's bizarre. I don't know. Is there something going on at 1952? Like, is there
I don't think they're doing any. Well, they're at Monmouth too.
That they play one home game the first month of the season. Like
they only have 1, 2, 3, 4. They only have 5 home games all schedule.
It was kind of a weak home schedule.
I don't think they're doing anything at Class of 52 because it's been recently renovated in the past. I think the big renovation was 2012.
Let me go to the.
I mean, unless they're redoing the bleachers or something, I don't know. Because it does seem either they only have 5 home games in the Cornell game on friggin' St. Patrick's Day weekend.
Who is it? I think Jerry Price does the Tiger blog for Princeton.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We got to ask.
I'm trying to look at if he posted anything on the
Tiger blog. Yeah, because that
seems. Let me see. I can't find it. I don't think.
Yeah, that is very strange.
That's very Very interesting. Yeah. I mean, 5 home games has happened before. Like, I've seen years where, teams have had 5 home games. It's depending if it just kind of doesn't, work out in that way. But
I mean, they only have 2 non-con games at home, Manhattan and Lehigh.
That's odd in terms of kind of how that's shaken out. So their schedule is certainly interesting. No, not playing Georgetown this year. They're replacing Georgetown with Carolina, and they're adding Duke as well. They haven't played those schools in a long time.
Duke a real long time. Carolina they played in the 2010s, but Duke
yeah. So it's
since the 90s, maybe early 2000s.
It's a very interesting home slate for sure. It's the one that's got the most substantive changes to it. Well, the thing with Ivy was it always was very. Whose Ivy schedule was always front loaded? Was it Yale? Yale would always play like Cornell, Penn, and somebody's Ivy schedule is always.
Oh yeah. Oh, Ivy schedule. Yeah, Penn's front loaded. So's Yale. Penn and Yale had the front.
Because Yale plays like Cornell, Princeton, and would play Cornell, Princeton, and Penn like 3 weeks in a row, like right at the. And they would always finish with because that's like last year.
They always finish with the Harvard Yale game.
They always and then they have Brown. I think the week before that. 2023 Yale. Yeah, Yale plays Cornell, Princeton, Penn the first 3 weeks of.
And then I think Penn plays Cornell and Princeton too the first 3 weeks. I think they're not this year because now Princeton Penn's later in the season.
Yeah, Penn too. They play Princeton, Cornell, Yale.
But yeah, usually the both of them have it front loaded, but this upcoming season, based on the Princeton schedule, the Penn Princeton game is going to be later.
And Yale is playing Penn April 6th. Because I think Penn's schedule is out. Yes, Penn is playing Carolina. Carolina, by the looks of it, is going to have a gnarly schedule this year.
Yeah, Jesus.
Just from what's like leaked out, like that could be,
that could get bad in a hurry.
Penn starts Georgetown February 17th. They play Albany February 20th. They play Delaware February 24th. That's spicy.
Yeah, Penn usually does not have that many games at the beginning of the year too. They're loading up on a number of games now.
Look, it's a Penn schedule. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 NCAA tournament teams from last year out of 13 games, and the worst team on their schedule is Albany out of conference. Then they also play the Joes and they play Villanova. It's a Penn schedule. Penn is also is that Penn Princeton? Is this a tournament? It's the same weekend.
As what?
Penn is playing Duke and North Carolina. They're doing Princeton reverse. They're playing
ACC Ivy League Challenge.
Is that like a tournament?
Because I have no idea. Because
it's not at one centralized location, but Penn is playing Duke Friday, March 1st, and Princeton is playing North Carolina, and then they're flipping it.
I'm guessing that ESPN told the ACC and Ivy League we're trying something new this year and having a mini weekend.
If it's on TV, fucking.
They're merging. That's going to be the big three. Ivy, ACC, Big Ten, SEC. They're going to replace the Big 12. No, that makes sense if you want to have like a fun lacrosse thing.
There you go.
March 1st, to be announced. Yeah, Duke, I'm guessing they're making something out of that.
North
Carolina is the place to be this year for lacrosse folks.
They're bringing friggin' Syracuse.
They got Hopkins, Syracuse, Princeton, all of them. They're coming in.
Then Princeton 2024. If you see, again, I'm going to get this right up here. North Carolina. See? March 1st.
That's definitely got
so that's very interesting.
Ivy challenge.
Who else is playing? Is Virginia playing by that weekend? Who's Virginia got?
Virginia's playing Hopkins that weekend.
Man, this is a weekend.
That's a weekend.
This is heat.
So Virginia's schedule, they got a heater of a schedule. Virginia, Richmond, Ohio State.
It's the same schedule as last year. Just they've dropped Lafayette, and they've added Albany, Drexel, and Bobby Moe.
Uh-huh.
Otherwise, it's the same.
Virginia schedule and love.
I mean, it's the same one as last year. They got, Michigan's still there, Richmond's still there, Ohio State's still there, Hopkins, Towson, Maryland, and then Harvard.
It's still bangers.
Oh, yeah, that Michigan game week 1's going to be great.
Yeah, great.
Hopkins March 2.
Yeah, and Virginia Richmond's always gets nutty, and it's in Richmond.
Aside from last year where Virginia put 25 on them.
But usually
that Virginia first 6-7 weeks was a real. We were getting into heady territory there. What was it? Remember they compared them to 22 Maryland. First Virginia Maryland game in College Park in 10 years. 9, because 14 was. It would be 10 years. That'd be fun.
Got another sacrilegious alert though.
What's up?
We're going back to one Syracuse-Virginia game a year, right?
Yeah.
Why the hell is it on April 20th and not on February 25th or March 2nd?
Well, this is interesting. Is the ACC because this is one of my complaints. The ACC looks like they're doing the Big Ten does it.
Traditional.
Like get all your non-con out of the way, and then because there's no April 16th, 13th, 20th, 27th.
Yeah.
There's no they're playing all of them in April. Because remember, the ACC used to have it scattered.
Scattered. But I'm saying, but again, this is the rest. But again, Syracuse, Virginia, it supersedes any ACC scheduling.
Fair.
Should be late February, early March.
Look, these are the bones. These are the things you deal with when you join a conference.
Yeah, but Syracuse, lacrosse, we're losing the recipes with this schedule. Virginia in late April. Princeton's gone again. Hopkins in goddamn North Carolina. We're losing recipes.
Cornell, is it Cornell dropped theirs?
I don't think so.
Yes, they did.
Oh, they did.
It's that's what we found out.
They did it a while back though, right?
It's again Cornell's is they added Denver, but otherwise it's
this came out a while ago.
That March. Penn State, Princeton, Yale, Penn. Oof. And then you followed up with Cuse the Tuesday. That's big. We're gonna find out Cornell. These are some men or some boys. Listen, this season, some of these games, they're just we got some bangers.
And one of the trends we're seeing is the big 3 conferences are all scheduling within one another.
Mm-hmm.
They're keeping it insulated. They're boosting their RPIs. That's an interesting trend to see. So, going to be interesting for the mid-majors because there's not going to be as many, high-quality wins for them to separate themselves from the pack or get themselves in the at-large convo. The past couple of years they blew their opportunity. I've talked about this till I go blue in the face about how they blew the opportunities to take advantage of a down ACC and whatnot. But now it's the ACC, Big Ten, and Ivy are kind of insulated and scheduling one another. And from what we've heard, what's rumored with Syracuse's schedule is the same thing. A lot of heavy hitters.
You know who they did schedule though?
High Point, very interesting.
You know who gets these? A10 gets these games.
Yeah, A10's separating themselves from the pack a bit by getting some of these big games.
Why do they get these games? They play
tight 6
games.
Tight 6 teams.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, Georgetown, in terms of the upper echelon of mid-majors with the Big East, they're at Loyola. Yeah, you're pulling it up now. But they're going to start off on February 3rd with Loyola, and it doesn't look like that's a scrimmage.
No, that's a game.
No, January 20th scrimmage. What are we doing?
That's what it's been the last couple of years. That's what it's been forever now. They play teams play 2 scrimmages. If you start the first week, you play 2 scrimmages the 2 Saturdays before.
But anyway,
so the
Georgetown, Georgetown. Look at this non-con slate though. So Georgetown's in that same boat as the A10. Look at this: Loyola, Hopkins, Penn, Notre Dame, at High Point,
Richmond.
At Richmond. That is loaded too. And again, Big East 6-team conference.
Well, yeah, Georgetown's like a honorary.
Honorary Big Three, yeah.
I think there's a fair question with it. I mean, that's a brutal slate to start. I mean, but
that March it gets a bit favorable before Big East play. So whatever they gotta correct or right the ship before Big East play, they've got a little bit of runway. Though those High Point and Richmond games are no gimmies by any means.
So Princeton goes away, and
that Dartmouth game feels like it could have been Yale. Because you drop Princeton, they played them last year. That would have been nice.
By that point, Yale's probably an Ivy play. March 19th.
I meant like quality of reporting. You're not going to have Princeton like.
Well, yeah. So I think that's the question.
Maybe the Brown game.
This is a very.
This everybody somehow. Sorry,
Brown, Daly is scheduling like I got to keep my job. Like it's like I'm gonna play everybody, and I'm gonna find a way to get to 8 and 6.
Wherever you want me to play. The back of the Arby's, we'll play there.
I will play you, and I'm gonna find a way to get to 8 and 6 because their RPI is probably gonna be very, very, very high.
He's Mbappe meme. I will be there no matter what.
No matter what.
Like they are. Brown is just like, man, like we gotta, no, Quinnipiac, you got us. But no, is the Georgetown schedule is so? It feels like replacing Princeton and Lehigh with Brown and Dartmouth. On paper, you could kind of see that as like a downgrade, and that feels like, is this a kind of, a schedule sort of designed for we're taking a step back? On the other hand, though, it's like, man, that ain't taking a step back. Starting that with Loyola, Hopkins, Penn, Notre Dame. Like that's now also though you could say moving the Loyola game from late in the year to first weekend. It could be like, hey, I don't want kind of anything kind of in the way sort of towards the end of the year.
Yes.
Like we just gotta take care of our business, and
we're tired of these Tuesday or Thursday night like we're having a heart attack against Loyola, who's playing for their season. Yeah.
So that is the year. Yeah, kind of. It's an interesting schedule, I think, and how much are they? How much is Warren kind of balancing what feels like on paper a lesser team than they've had in the last couple of years. However, I kind of think Dartmouth might be like, and Lehigh's a wash in a way. I think it's possible. Like Dartmouth RPI could be good, and with kind of their opponent, the 1% of that part, I think Dartmouth could be a decent team this year. I mean, they were good. They were a solid team last year.
Yeah, they've been solid the past 2 years.
New coach.
They're on the upward swing.
Well, they got the Ivy win last year. That was the big, beating Harvard. So, and new coach with Kerwin. So, and it'd be decent. But yeah, I mean, these are some. There's big. I mean, there's big games out here. I think Safe, you said you're going to the Georgetown game. Hopkins Georgetown, I should say.
What is it? Hopkins Georgetown. No, absolutely. Yeah, we're about the ticket, or at least the Amtrak ticket. Grab that as soon as I can.
Yeah, I mean, and then we got Hopkins, Georgetown, Loyola at Ridley. I might do that. Maybe. Mm-hmm. Ridley's not far from me. I mean, Homewood's 15 minutes from me, and Ridley's 5 minutes from Homewood. So
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Ridley's just right down the block from Homewood.
Yeah, so it's only like 20 minutes. Then you got Cornell. Safety going to Cornell Princeton, March 16th.
Oof.
Or Cornell Penn.
Cornell Penn, March 30th. Yeah.
Yeah.
Either one of those. In Philly.
Let's check that.
Oh, Cornell's playing Notre Dame too.
Oh yeah, way Larry the League. Cornell Notre Dame.
I totally didn't realize that. Cornell played Notre Dame prior to the pandemic, and in this spot too. So there you go. There's another just whale of a Cornell. Cornell feels like Cornell's feels like an adjustment to last year. Like we got caught out. Cornell's schedule last year was not great. If you remember, you go back to who they had in 23, it was Albany, Lehigh, Hobart,
Ohio State,
Penn State, and then Marquette,
Army.
So take Army. Is Cornell not playing Army this year?
Yes, they're not playing Army this year.
No, yeah.
We're losing the upstate New York recipes. Well, granted, Cornell Army's not as true.
So Notre Dame may be in for Army or Marquette, and then they're also adding Denver for maybe. This is also a trend that you're seeing. Albany is getting off these big team schedules because Albany was on Maryland's schedule and no longer. They're not going to be this year, and Maryland's replacing them with Brown. And also not on Cornell's schedule. This is the effect of kind of the decline that Albany's seen in the last couple. Because remember, Albany being on big team schedule was not a thing prior to the Thompsons. And once the Thompsons, and then Albany had great success, it became very prevalent for Albany to schedule, with kind of the big boys. But the last couple of years, Albany hasn't been a kind of additive value to these team schedules. So I think this kind of a lingering effect of sort of the decline of that program is now they're not on, a lot of. Let me see if Albany's got their schedule out. I don't think they do. Not on as many teams. Yeah, not for Albany yet. Not on as many teams' schedules in 2024.
Very, very interesting. But again, I think, as I said, the trend, though, we're seeing ACC, Big Ten, Ivy League being insular, Big East and A10 reaping some of the rewards, too. But it is a very fascinating thing playing for the RPI. This is our Thanksgiving edition, and we did open it up as an Ask Me Anything in AMA. And some of you all on X, maybe Blue Sky, maybe Threads. I don't know.
We can still call it. Have some shame.
I called it Twitter.
You said X.
I said X? I thought I said Twitter.
Yes, you said X.
Wow. You always call it Twitter. I guess that must have slipped out.
As long as you don't do FKA. X formerly, when they do that on the news now all the time. X, FKA.
Formerly known as Twitter. Yeah. I think that's like an NBC Universal policy or something like that, or CNN or something. But anyway, yeah, you guys asked us on Twitter, on Blue Sky, or on Threads.
It was just Twitter. We don't have we might add a Blue Sky account maybe. No. Since we will not be adding a Threads.
Thanks, Don.
Sorry, Zach.
Lacrosse.
Sorry, Zach. Yeah, not doing that one.
That's the line in the sand.
I promised the first 20 minutes of it, then you found out that it didn't have
They were waiting. People were waiting for Twitter's demise. They were like, we got it. We got it.
And then, what do you freaking mean that there's no chronological timeline? What the? And they lost everyone.
All I want is a chronological timeline. and I want a chronological timeline. I want no bots. I want no Nazis.
I want to mute.
I want no Nazis.
No Nazis. I want a mute words function, and I want DMs.
Like that's it.
Dude, I still remember it was like weekly. Everyone was, I'm leaving this site, and it's just like this long screen, and then like 2 weeks later, back on Twitter. Just right now.
People have a lot. Yeah, like it's not. I mean, honestly, like, which is fine.
These guys
like,
kind of picked up steam.
The problem. I just like, God, man, get rid of the freaking bots. Like,
yeah,
the bots are terrible. You look up like it. You know, it's not even the like sex bots in your replies. It's that as much as like when you try to like
just liking your tweets.
That and then like when you try to search something up, just like the search function is just destroyed now.
Yeah,
like you cannot look up anything anymore because it's just bots everywhere.
Bots and verified users.
Yeah.
Verified.
The bots are like, it's terrible when you try to search something. I'm like, okay, great. Like I got nothing out of this. Like, you know, lovely. But yeah, that's all I'm looking for.
So we do have some questions. First, from 2025 Broke Dad Jason, he asked, does a prospect day camp really increase my son's chances for being exposed to a college? Other than tour a school, we've never received any feedback. Just looking for the best chance for my son to contribute to a D2 or D3 school with a major he will enjoy.
I don't know that I have a lot of feedback to give on this one. It might be the recruiting folks might be the more I guess potentially better equipped to ask this one or kind of better equipped to answer this one. I assume look, getting out in front of coaches is always a positive in that regard. Like that's and in terms of how do things like rankings or or just kind of attention for recruits work. Like a big function of it is just what the coaches tell these people. It's who the coaches are view as really good prospects. So I would say getting attention in front of coaches is very valuable. I think, but also that could maybe be and assume, sending out your highlights maybe to, I don't know, again, these kind of the websites and kind of that do the recruiting thing, or, possibly, the school itself, maybe coach itself that, could be, will make sense. But I mean, yeah, as far as, the prospect thing with the prospect camps might be, they're expensive. I know, I'm sure. So yeah, as far as kind of what's the most, balancing that of a school's camp, if they have, something like that, I think that could maybe be more, workable, potentially. But yeah, I know those prospect camps, those are, crazy. But yeah, also if you're, D2 or D3, if that's the goal, I think might be, just try emailing, send out, but that might be done. But I'm just because it's you're more likely to D1 head coaches. It's just a different scale. In terms of reception you're gonna get. But D2, D3, you might get something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't know to just to something like that. Whoever runs the camp. Potentially just that might be. But yeah, I think the recruiting folks probably have a better chance of answering that than we do. They're just more, attuned to it. They kind of know how it works.
Yeah, definitely. You kind of hit it, Jake, is plus and minus, especially money for looking at these D1 prospect camps. I do wonder if it's location specific, if you are in some areas that maybe aren't the normal hotbeds, and there is an opportunity to be in front of coaches, and it's not just D1 coaches that maybe that, changes the calculus. But again, the prices, some of these, when try to obligate a parent by saying you have to get to these type of camps, otherwise, because you always read these stories about like players, but they say, talent always like someone will find you, or if you are good, like what was it? Trevor Baptiste's story, right? He was like looking at D3 schools, and this some coach,
Marshall.
Yeah, and some other coach just kind of called another guy, got to Tierney's ear, and next thing you know, he's in Denver. So sometimes the talent evaluators will find you if you got some tape out there. But yeah, I wouldn't want to be in a position to kind of tell people to spend money on prospect camps, just given the lack of knowledge I have with some of the high school recruiting.
Yeah, I think you guys put it best. I don't want to give any bad advice out there. But yeah, and I would also ask maybe is school coaches, I'm not sure at what level, if you're in middle school or high school, but usually lacrosse head coaches at the school level have played in the past, and a lot of them have college experience. So that could be a good route of, just asking his coaches, about the process, and they might be able to lend him on the right direction too. Also, we do want to acknowledge, thank you, Bodie, for your question on the Maryland offensive coordinator question. I know we addressed it a little bit earlier in it, but we want to thank you for the question as well. David asks, thoughts ahead of the 2024 season?
Yeah, I think, what else did David also wishes happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving, David.
Also, was it 24 season? I think it was I guess 24 for season. I think his were thoughts on recruiting. He said he was getting pumped for the season. So I guess we can do both. We can do thoughts on any broader, thoughts 2024.
Going to be a fascinating year, I think. Again, we're talking about the heavy hitters loading up on one another, and they're playing huge games. So it's going to be interesting to see with that. I think your top tier is a little bit more fluid than it has been the past couple of years. You have a big spoiler in the process with Army. I think that's going to be very fascinating to see too. Can Army put together that magical season, because they've got the potential for that? And then you still got your blue bloods that are now on the rise with Hopkins and Cuse. So it's going to be very fascinating. I think there's a lot to be on the lookout for this year. And you also got some kind of hot seat situations with, at least in terms of, pressure to improve, not necessarily, pressure on the coaches' jobs necessarily, but you look at schools like UNC or Ohio State that have had success in the past 7-8 years that are now at a little bit of a crossroads. And then you look at some of the up-and-comers, like, can Michigan keep the momentum going? Can Harvard translate that positive momentum from the first year of the Jerry Byrne era, get things going back in the right direction there too? So I think what's fun about this upcoming season is there's a lot more question marks than we had the past couple seasons, where it was kind of clear of who the top echelon teams were. But this year there's a lot of different storylines all playing out at once, which is going to be very fascinating to see.
Jake and I touched on it a little bit, but there's not so many, but there's definitely a significant amount of teams and individual like coaches and players that could just have legacy defining changes to their career if they win a title this year. Like, I just think of Virginia, like they pull it off this year, and it's 3 titles in 5 full seasons and 6 total years, obviously, but in 5 full seasons, like that just puts Lars on another shelf. If Dano is able to close it out and maybe even pull another one out in the next 2 or 3 years, like then he's up there, with the Tierneys and the Simmons and so the GOATs up there. Yeah, but I think of also like Tams and just like being again so close to the Final Four, but given like Penn State's own like trajectory. Like I'm like they just kind of been in the wilderness, but they too have been like 2 Final Fours in almost 5 seasons. If they can make another one, and then Tam can finally get that ring and really kind of cement his legacy as like one of the top coaches in the game. And I just think of like players like who could really do well with a title. We talk about Connor enough, but Duke's got a player who's got a Twarton as well, and like who doesn't have a ring, and maybe like that is his whole story change. So this way, I feel like there's just a lot of storylines that feel incomplete, and for one way or another, that if they're able to get that ring and hold up the title on Memorial Day Monday, that it's just we always say, like, you rarely ever get a storybook ending, but there's enough teams out there who, like you said, like have these storylines and just haven't been like completely like see through it, that if they ever do pull it off, and you do kind of like Notre Dame last year, whatever jokes and everything we said about 22, they ended up winning the title. That was their storyline. And like I was also thinking, I was like, is this the birth of a new superpower with Notre Dame? Because I just that atmosphere in the link that day when they were taking Duke, it was like 90% Notre Dame fans, and it was just like, wow. And then now they won this title, and it's just like, exactly. Is this the wave? Did they steal the wave from other teams? And like now that maybe
there's something to be said about there's something to be said about taking the monkey off the back for the trajectory of a program. You saw it with Maryland once they finally got the title.
They just and so it's like you're saying, and it's just kind of interesting stuff like Maryland, rarely ever stumbles, like just be kind of something different. Just like that almost feels like almost a little bit like 10 years ago for them. Kind of the beginning of Tillman's rise, and just Milliman, like is Hopkins' backpack. If they get to Memorial Day Monday, or at least the Final Four, is that kind of like Jays are back in town and stuff like that. Gabe, loses Petro, got his team, looks like cautiously optimistic. Can he like shed some of the naysayers to the side and get his team make a nice run in the tournament? So there's just so many like really interesting storylines, just the stuff that interweave interest between all three of us, or us individually. And it's just the game in general as well. So like I just kind of like that. This always kind of just feels like just like an open canvas, even more so than before. But also just like this one team or this one player, this one coach actually gets it done. Like we're just going to think of them in just a totally different light. Like I think that with Corrigan, like almost gets their Sisyphean type of experience, get up there real close, and last few years like. They really weren't making those Memorial Day runs like they were before, Final Four runs, and then they do it after a year of like extreme disappointment in 2022. And I think they were so disappointed in 2022 because they maybe felt like there's not that many swings or bites at the apple left for Corrigan, and that intensity like manifested in the championship last year. So, or this last season, but this past year. So. Yeah, I just feel like, it could just be a lot of different things that happened this year, obviously, but like certain things that if they do hit, like we're just going to look at these players and look at these teams differently, and especially some of these coaches, they could just really just have a different tenor to their career. Like we're just going to, like I really think if Tams wins it this year, like, we'll look back and be like the ups and downs of the post-Mench years, the lost to Duke in such a dramatic and unfortunate fashion, and given the controversy that and then they come back and win it. Like Jake and I talked about it in the last pod. Like certain teams, there's that spark that like kind of ignites them and like propels them through a year where they're just super focused. I think of the 05 Hopkins team with Petro, where they kept losing the championship in the Final Four. 06 team with UVA losing to Hopkins in such a dramatic fashion, in 05. The Maryland team, I think every day I was like, I think losing to Virginia that 2021 season was the thing that like kind of really propelled them to do another undefeated regular season, but this time actually win the championship. and obviously what we just talked about with Notre Dame. So yeah, there's a lot of storylines, and Penn State's one that's top of my mind. But yeah, just like it's just kind of easily write off like 6 that really are I'm thinking about going into this season, and just really interested to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, I think Penn State's. I mean, aside from Corrigan, which I mean, it's a big aside because it's the most recent one. Who has won their first title in a career either, or just that deep into their tenure at a school, like Tams?
Shay?
Yeah, Shay.
It's Shay, yeah.
But even Shay's, I think it's a good, Shay was what year?
10?
No,
10 or so.
No, Shay got there in 03 or 04.
Ooh.
So it was 15 or 16, which is about 16, what we're approaching with Tams. Is Tams has been at.
This is 14th year, right?
Yes, this will be year 14 for Tams. It's being there that long, and like you say, they've had such in terms of a narratively dense tenure for the coach. Tams, they've been through everything. Coming in and having it's so easy to forget now. As soon as he got hired, the expectation was they would be making Final Fours.
Okay.
Very, very quick. I remember if you go read the article, they asked Desco and so what he's like. I mean, I expect he would do it. He did at Cornell. If Penn State is invested was kind of the qualifier. But if they were into it and that hire was. I mean, it's the biggest bombshell hire of the last. Gosh, I don't know, 20 years.
Yeah,
at least.
Yeah, even more than Tierney to Denver.
Tierney Denver's the one. Tierney Denver's probably the one. I think that's the one. Yeah.
Just quote Sleeping Giant Penn State to Ham Roden. Yeah, the amount of hits that came out, of that.
And I think you see this in sports. The idea of a sleeping giant, I personally think is kind of bullshit. Listen, man, you are, if you're not winning, there's a reason for it. It's not it's just what's going on there? How could this happen? No, there's many, many reasons. People call North Carolina football a sleeping giant. And it's okay, well, after so many freaking times,
that's a coma. It's not.
Yes. Texas A&M. It's man, there's reasons for this, there's just obvious reasons why it hasn't happened. And getting that first, and he got to the tournament quickly. Remember, they got year 3, they got a home game, and then the next year was the CAA telling them they couldn't play in the tournament.
Get out.
Boom, out. They might have won the conference tournament that year, and that was a good. They were a good team.
Still Hall of Fame petty move. Hall of Fame. That's a standard bearer right there.
And didn't happen. So then they have to they lose that kind of momentum going into the Big Ten. They had momentum and they lost it. And then it took a couple years again in the Big Ten for them, to get going. And then he lands a Ment in front of the pod. One of the all-time consequential recruits a coach has landed. Makes the tournament in 2017. They've got a home game, but they lose. Grant breaks his metatarsal? Week 1 of 2018. I still remember getting that news, and it's oh my grandson, wow. And then it was a couple. It's he was out for. It's it should be a couple weeks. Then a couple weeks go by. It's oh, and a couple weeks turned into the entire season. And remember that year, that was a good team that just obviously was missing that guy.
Yeah.
2019. Of course, finally, that was 9 years in. That's how deep it was before it finally happened. And and it was, it's happened. And even before that year, we were talking. I remember in our polls, they were a team, a rare team to miss the tournament that was ranked in the top 10. I remember us ranked because it was man, the pieces are there. It's all here. It's gotta. If not, it was with that old. If not now, when? Well, it happened, and then, TD, the boogeyman, took him out. 2020, they were the preseason favorite to win the national championship that year. The season gets cut short. And then it falls apart. I mean, it did 21 and 22. And we were writing them off. Like, it kind of looked done, and then pulls out maybe his best coaching job ever. Like, there's just been so many ups and downs and twists and turns to that story with that program. It's not been, what it was expected to be. I think if you had mapped it out, it's not been smooth. I think there's been times where he maybe hasn't done a great job, but there's also been times where he's done an amazing job. And on the balance, I mean, he's made 2 Final Fours there. Like, so I think, I think that's a fascinating, kind of story if they could get over the hump and do it. To find out, and he's kind of the last guy at the last guy on the dance floor. Like, Corrigan's off the hook. When you think great coaches without a championship, he is number one, but he's also kind of the only one,
Yeah, he's the only one left now.
Like, I mean, there's other Ben DeLuca maybe, but Ben DeLuca's probably not at school like Delaware where you expect it.
And Myers is not as much tenure. I don't think
Myers that year. The senator, again, is Army, can Army? I mean, you don't view Army in that kind of tier, even they've had this discussed, Albarisi hasn't made enough tournaments to and I mean, not as a negative, but it's just that kind of story where you get with a coach, where you lose in the tournament, he hasn't made as many. It's Tams, and then it's, I mean, Myers kind of have, but it's kind of fun. Mike Murphy,
somewhat.
Kind to a degree.
But Penn's been a national title contender once?
Yeah.
19. That's
19.
about it.
That was probably about it. And then other than that, but it's kind of younger coaches. You want could Busick kind of grow? Could Madeline Gates, not a younger coach, but it's new to the D1 level, men's level. So yeah, I think he's the guy now. It's I mean, all time it's him and Dave Cottle. In terms of hasn't done it. So I think that'd be a real incredible story. I look at it kind of twofold. Big programs with kind of questions to answer and trying to see if they can get back, and then can the kind of programs last year continue their rise and kind of continue this, make it stick. I think the first column you got North Carolina, fresh again that 3-year. Here's the thing, North Carolina doesn't work this year. There's 2 years left on that contract. We're just restarting the clock again, basically. We're restarting the conversation we had last year if it doesn't happen this year. And, of course, changing the whole staff out, Petro coming in. They have, for 25, which would probably, I mean, you got, for the final year of his contract, it would be, they have currently is the number 1 recruiting class for the 2026 group, so there's a kind of potentially a sort of man on the horizon. There's a big, crop coming in with what they, have, and even the 20, the 24s, is another good class, but 25 is what they, got there is a, potentially monster recruiting class. They got 4 of the top 12 players, 5 of the top 20. But also, I mean, the flip to that is, when the hell has North Carolina ever been short on dudes? It's the recruiting, that's always been there for them. But I think that's a big story. Ohio State, man, it can't get any worse than that. And what I mean by that is if it does get any worse than that, you're in emergency mode. There's a problem. It's got to get better. That was supposed to be a big year for them that they missed. And, talking about Ohio State was in the position, I think, in 22 going to 23 that I think kind of Hopkins is in, Syracuse is in, of if a good year and it felt like there was momentum and they couldn't make it stick. And now you're back to square one. A big one, Loyola. what is Loyola in kind of post Pat Spencer? Like they won the national championship in 2012, got to the Final Four the first year with Pat, were a consistent quarterfinal team with Pat. They made that quarterfinal the first year after with Olmstead and Lindley and all those older guys, but those guys are gone now, and you've had two straight years Loyola's missed the tournament. That's the first time that's happened to Charlie Toomey. This year 23 was the first year they'd ever beaten Maryland and Hopkins in the same year, and they didn't parlay that into a successful season. I know Quint's kind of had like a theory of like early recruiting in a way that it maybe damaged schools like Hopkins who missed on it. It benefited schools like Loyola who were able to identify some talents late, look at kind of some of the guys who were ignored and turn into great talent. But also Loyola did recruit at an elite level. Like Pat Spencer was a 5-star recruit. Ryan McNulty was a 5-star. Like they got some big name guys. Hasn't quite happened as much. And now also again that kind of goes to my early recruiting deal. Like they were able to guys who then peaked and rose up the rankings. But yeah, like Loyola used to be Georgetown, but even more successful because they won the freaking title. Like the question we have with Georgetown, Loyola did it, and Loyola was that school on the outside of the Ivy, Big Ten, like that, the Big Three, kind of that club. Like they were the ones you had to include in the conversation every year. Like you had to give deference to Loyola. That deference isn't there anymore. They have drifted back to being like a Patriot League program, and I think has that hurt them? Has the Patriot League just that many games on the schedule?
Oh yeah.
Has that hurt? Does that hurt recruiting? Like guys want to be in the ACC, and then the Big Ten as it's got big name, like they want to be at Maryland, want to be at Hopkins, want to be at Penn State. The Big Ten has the like big footballs, kind of like it's got like there's a name brand as just larger outside of lacrosse to that. You get like the facilities are great. You get like great weight rooms and things like that. Like you get to kind of work out the same place. You're treated like a big time D1 athlete. Same with the ACC. Like the ACC's got the biggest brand in lacrosse. So like those ACC Big Ten, like guys want to be at those schools. Like that's where they want to play. They want to play on ESPN, and that's a big marketing tool for those programs to recruit. Loyola with a pace, like you don't have that. Like it's just
CBS Sports Network, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so there's things working against them, but they always were able to overcome it. Toomey and that staff was like one of the best there is. I think that's it's sort of excellent. Like, what is Loyola existentially? Like, like if they get back this year, I think you see like that staff still in a hotbed area, like you can make it work. But 3 years in a row without the tournament, that'd be tough. And then you got Denver, I think is kind of the last one, like not coming off a bad year, like, just missed the tournament. But replacing Tierney, is Matt Brown. I mean, this has been the succession plan forever. Is Matt Brown replaces Bill Tierney? Well, now we get it. And what does it look like? So I think that, and then you got on the flip side, who are the, how do these, like, who are the ones that kind of break through? Like Hopkins, is it, is this sustained? Like, can Hopkins sustain this? Can they get back to the Final Four? They got good recruiting coming. Like, can this be a multi-year thing? Or is it Ohio State last year? Where it's like, I had one good year and then, kind of falls off. I think this is a great question. Michigan, big one. I mean, like,
yeah.
Like, is the expectations of Michigan will never, ever be the same. And that's good and bad. It's good. You want to call them that challenge. But it also means if they have a bad year this year, a disappointing season, it's going to be magnified even more than it was when they weren't breaking through, because now the proof of concept is there. You can win at Michigan. So it changes a lot for Conway. It really does. Then
you're on a roll. But just to put that Loyola point in perspective, there are 1, 2, 3, only 6 teams with more NCAA appearances than the Matt Greyhounds.
How many
teams are more Final Fours?
How many teams are more Final Fours?
Oh, Final
Like,
Fours.
that's good because they got Toomey's got 2. Cottle had like 3. That's 5.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like what maybe.
You got all of the ACC.
Cuse, North
Maryland,
Carolina, top
Hopkins,
5.
Princeton, Cornell. So I think they're probably 10th.
Yeah.
Probably 10th, I would say, in Final Four appearances. No, I mean Loyal. We've been to the final. Been to the final. Been to the final 3 times, I believe, or won it. Denver might have as many as Loyola does at this point. With how many? I think how many they with Tierney? 4 or 5. 2 finals appearances for Loyola, but 4 Final Fours. So I think they're right about where Denver's at. Yeah, like they're like Cottle. Remember, Cottle had a great run there right before Tierney, like for years. So I think that's, and then you got like Michigan, like actually gonna be the same. Cuse, big year. I mean, like is new DC in there. The younger guys are all a year older. Can you push on to where like Hopkins did last year? I think those are the interesting programs. What Maryland's probably gonna be like. What Notre Dame, Virginia, Duke are gonna be. Those are the 4 that are just kind of like entrenched. But what is kind of these? I think those are the schools that magnify. Even Princeton, number 1 recruiting class. I remember Maryland had the number 1 recruiting. Princeton to me looks like Maryland 10 years ago, in the sense of made a Final Four, took a step back the next year. Maryland's, it was just the 1 year with Tillman, the mix didn't really come together. I guess maybe it's this year too. And then the next year they had the number 1 recruiting class coming in after losing so much talent. And Maryland got that class. That was the Rambo class. Rambo, IDA, Heathcock, all those guys. They came in as freshmen, and they got to the Final Four year 1. And what happened the next 3 years? They played on Memorial. That built it. They got to the Final Four right away, and they just rode that wave with all those young guys into a golden era. I'm not saying the expectation of Princeton should be, hey, go on 10 Final Fours or whatever. But if you get to the Final Four this year with that number of those young guys, like we always talk about, man, you can just build. It's what Petro did. Petro got to the Final Four having year 2, and then with Harrison's group, and they just rode that, and they kept getting back, and then the dam broke through. Princeton, it's you're losing so much, and that's really, you got so many guys tough, impossible to replace. How do you replace Jake Stevens? But man, if those guys hit, those freshmen, and they can get to a Final Four, man, they're gonna be. It's really hard to not see a championship coming if those guys as freshmen can get to a Final Four, because it just sets you up. So you're already the tough thing with the tournament is it's handling the moment and the experience. And if you do it young, well, then everything's easy. It's, from there. That's the thing with Cuse, I think, as well. Can those guys, does it not build to a thing where, your seniors, and it's man, this is the last chance. We haven't done it yet. That's a big question, I think. It's, and Princeton, getting that recruiting class, when's the last time a team outside of the ACC Big Ten got the number 1 recruiting class?
Didn't Harvard do that 1 year?
Maybe. If so, that's a long time. That was with Tillman probably. But that's a big freaking deal. If you can make it count on the field. So I think those are big stories.
All right, we'll move over. Speaking of Princeton, John asks, what impact will the players transferring out of Princeton have on their new teams?
Well, I mean, they're all going to Cuse,
yeah. So I think it is going to be interesting because I think add some, stable hands to that Syracuse, to this Syracuse team that's loaded on young talent. And I think that's going to be good for the young talent, is to have some guiding hands for the year to help, lead them in the right direction a bit. And I think it's going to be good for Syracuse. Again, I think the term I used right there was stabilizing, and I think that's going to be the way to go.
Final Four experience.
Yeah, so I mean, they don't. Again, I think what's successful for Syracuse this year is, at the very least, let's make the NCAA tournament. But what would be really good would be a quarterfinal appearance. I'm not expecting them to make it like it's the 2008 Syracuse team that goes from missing the tournament to winning the whole thing right away. But I think if they could provide a positive presence for the young players on the team, then I think that they could have a leadership role in terms of leading stats and everything. But I think what would be even better is, that they play a supplemental role to the younger talent and let the younger talent shine as the year progresses. But I think for the start of the season, if they can be, help Syracuse win those early season games, and in a sense, kind of turn the reins to the young talent as the season progresses, as the young talent, starts to, get accustomed to their style of play and, start to have their output increase as the season goes along too. So I think out of the Cuse bunch, I think that they're going to have a good impact for the Orange. There's a lot of talent coming in out of them, and I think that'll definitely, help improve the team as it goes along. And I think in the long run is going to be very beneficial for the young core that's in place, especially, the sophomore core that's in place.
I mean, they're going to play big roles. Again, is there any other player in the country like Jake Stevens? No.
Yeah, no.
For a Cuse, he's going to be their best defensive midfielder, and he's probably going to play man up. Maybe not play man. Cuse man up was phenomenal last year. So
yeah.
But he's a great man up player. He's going to play. Cuse needs midfield scoring. Like Spalina, Hiltz, Thompson, Leo. You got those. Those are all attackmen. Midfield scoring guys you bring back Burt Whistle with 27 goals, which is a lot. Had the lovely stat. We always like 27 goals, no assists. Like that. But they need guys in midfield. Sammy English, if he's healthy, was an All-American. He's a guy at that spot. And Stevens as well. They need those guys will plug in and Spalina, Hiltz, Thompson, and then, or maybe you play Leo at attack. I like Leo a lot. He had juice. And then Thompson, Stevens, English, that could be the first midfield. Maybe you want to, if they have the depth to run Stevens at second, I think that'd be great, because then you could rely on him a lot as a defensive guy. And they need defensive midfield help. That's going to be, they're going to play big, sizable. Yeah, you're right, big, sizable roles, and experience for us. They're going to be some of the best 6 guys they have on offense, I believe. So that's a big, impact. Bo Pettersson will be really good for, and Rhonda in Michigan. Michigan needs offensive help, which they got with Rhonda, and then Pettersson was one of the best shorties in the country. The wild card is Vardero at Georgetown, because that one took a long time to get into the, to process. I think it happened through fall ball, so I think he was with the team in fall ball. But that just kind of that thing took a while to happen. But as far as pure talent goes, offensively Stevens is the best player that coming out there. But talent goes, Vardero, he almost 50 points. Georgetown needs scoring to replace Dordovic and Minikis and all those guys. Solomon, so he could be a big one if it works and he can kind of get ingratiated and make it happen. I think he's a real wild card in terms of what, especially for need. Georgetown needs guys who can put the ball in the net get at their man and make things happen. And he was that kind of guy for Princeton. Or the other wild card I think is Slusher, because Slusher in 22 was phenomenal. And when you saw, like, as far as, like, the Dodger, I remember the Rutgers game, Dave, you went to, like, he toasted Bobby Russo, like, many times. But last year he was hurt so much. Now he's going to Duke, where, I mean, how much does he play? Like, can Duke, like, if he's healthy, like, his ceiling, I feel like he can be a starter, but, like, Duke's got so many guys. Like, they're already bringing in Zawada from Michigan, like, who ball-heavy attackmen on an attack where the ball should only be going to really one guy. Duke's fascinating. Like, they went back heavy in the portal, and I don't really feel like they needed to. Like, it'd be interesting to see how they put that mix together, because they made it work in 23, but they didn't do as much portal. I don't think it's a big portal this year, so that'd be interesting. But yeah, like, I think they're all going to have big impacts. Like, they're super talented players. But the ones Vardaro and Slusher, I think, are the wild cards.
Goes on all that. I think that's probably why we're saying cautiously optimistic about Syracuse, in large part because of the influx of talent that's coming in, and Gate finally maybe having a chance to break through and get into the NCAA tournament. So definitely, I think they'll definitely have an impact, at least in Syracuse, New York.
Righty, next. The Revenge of Pancho Luancho. Pardon me if I botched up that name. You know me that I am terrible at names. They say, be nice to see a broader dive and some exposure into some things like non-hotbed conferences and NAIA. Well, the good news is with the non-hotbed conferences, you are listening to the Crosse Commission podcast where we do go in depth with every conference, and we're only about 6 weeks or so away from our deep dives of every single D1 conference. Our philosophy is mainly sticking with D1 men's lacrosse because we don't want to spread too thin with D2 and D3 and
I couldn't tell you.
Everything else. Yeah.
I apologize.
Yeah. So, I mean, we don't really dive into it because we don't want to feel like we're talking about something that we have no idea on. I mean, just covering D1 lacrosse and just the men's game is a lot to handle. We dabble a bit into the women's game as well at the D1 level.
We're nowhere near the experts in that one either.
Yeah, with D2 and D3, it's just that we cover so much with D1 that we don't want to have talk about D2 and D3 and come off as ridiculously uneducated. Like, oh yeah, so Salisbury Gettysburg over the weekend, and just name the score and try to come up with narratives over that. And the same with the NAIA. I mean, obviously respect to those that cover that as well, but that's a ton. And I'm sure there's sources out there to scope out on those ends as well, because, man, that is a lot. I think just us doing this, as a side gig, just with covering 75 or so teams is a ton. And, taking glances into D1 women's lacrosse as well adds on to it too. So I just for us, I mean, eventually if anyone comes along with D2 or D3, whatever, but for us, it's a bit too much, I guess.
Definitely. Don't want to be posers.
Nothing worse than a poser. I don't know. What's the most interesting mid-major conference for you guys this year?
Most interesting mid-major A10 again, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Who's going to win it?
That's a good question.
Feels competitive again. Richmond gets freaking shit done, man.
Yeah,
Richmond's got a lot of talent back. I think Richmond's going to be really good. I like Richmond a lot. St. Joe's is still
I mean, high floor program. You know, they still got talent there.
They're in the mix.
Really well in a scrimmage. Hobart's a team Hobart don't want to be left out of that. You know,
mix.
They were 6th, and they were kind of a bit of a distance. So, you know, I don't think they want to be left out of that party. You know, so
don't sleep on UMass either. They had a winning record last year, 8-6.
Yeah, I mean it's such a tight, competitive league. I like Richmond. Who's the most interesting mid-major team?
If we're not counting, are we counting Army towards that with the Patriot League, or are they high major?
Yeah, Patriot League. Well, that's a good question here. Where does the Patriot League fall? It's kind of this.
Yeah, because they've been a high major for the longest time, but they're kind of tumbling towards mid. If it wasn't for Army and BU in recent years, you might make a case that they're tumbling towards mid-major status, especially with the advent of the A10.
What's a better league, A10 or Patriot League?
Oh.
Going forward, I guess.
Yeah, it depends on how Loyola goes. Because as right now, the Patriot League just has Army and BU to fall back on. With Lehigh slipping and Navy slipping, it's really up to Loyola.
I've been saying this for years. Loyola should move to the Big East. I think they should move. I mean, if it's just lacrosse only, that's fine, but they should move.
Yeah, I mean the Big East. I think you could still make a case for number 4.
This is where it gets interesting. If I took Army out of the Patriot League,
yeah,
and I took Richmond out of the A10, and I took Georgetown out of the Big East, which one of those is the weakest of the 3?
Sorry.
Probably the Patriot, but if
I took, I'll just go for safe, Ryan. Oh, there you go. If I took Georgetown out of the Big East,
out,
and I took Richmond out of the A10, and I took Army out of the Patriot League. So that means you have in the Big East, you have Denver, Marquette, Providence, St. John's, and Villanova. And then in the A10, you have High Point, UMass, St. Joe's, Hobart, and High Point, St. Joe's, UMass, Hobart. Who's the
St. Bonaventure?
St. Bonaventure. And then Patriot League, everybody but Army. Which of those 3 is the strongest league?
I mean,
I'd say if you could go first.
Like going forward, I mean,
or even right now. Right now, which one of those is the strongest league?
Strongest league. I mean, I got faith in A10 teams. I like right now. Even if you took out Richmond, I think you could make a case for A10 being the strongest, just because like the Patriot League, you take out Army, if Loyola still kind of on the trajectory they're in. Really, the only other team of note is BU, and no disrespect to the Terriers, you know, DraftKings loves them for sure. But I mean, if I'm looking at the rest of the Patriot League, I think of like who I could feel has a good chance of making the tournament if you take out Army. I guess BU, but I mean, if I'm looking at A10, I think UMass could, with Ryan, I think UMass could bounce back in St. Joe's. We know is in the running for top tier of the A10. So if you take out Richmond, they probably get good chances. And High Point is also, you know, people still talk about that. Was it 2016 year for them? So, yeah, I go A10 Big East Patriot League in terms of strongest.
The Patriot League. The Patriot League depends a lot on what Loyola and Navy do. If Loyola and Navy are good, that rises the Patriot up way up. If they're doing what they've been doing the past couple of years, that weighs them down. Exactly. The other thing with the Big East is the Big East is top heavy. So, yeah, even if you get rid of Georgetown, you got Denver and Villanova. But then you also have to deal with Providence and St. John's.
Yeah.
So I would say maybe, yeah.
No, go ahead, Ron. Finish.
I would maybe put the A-10, as it stands now, the A-10 first. Because I think with the Big East, the bottom of that conference weighs it down more than any of the other bottoms. Even with how the Patriot League has a ton of teams, like that, the bottom of the Big East is not great, Bob.
I don't even think it's the bottom. Like, here's a trivia question for you. When's the last time a Big East team not named Georgetown won a tournament game?
Won a tournament game?
Oh. Yeah.
Denver,
2017.
2016.
2018 Denver.
Denver, yeah.
It's been 1, 2, not count. Well, I'm counting the COVID year. 4 years, 4 seasons, where a Big East team, besides Denver, besides Georgetown, hasn't won a tournament game. So I don't even think it's much the Big East is the like. Is the Big East top heavy without Georgetown? Like, is Denver and Villanova that much better than St. John's and UMass? Not St. John's. St.
Joe's and UMass, yeah.
I think that's even.
That's a wash.
Yeah, pretty even, yeah.
Like, Denver might be a bit better than St. Joe's. I trust UMass more than I do Villanova.
Villanova, yeah.
Like, I know
Villanova just feels like the traditional 18th to 20th team every year.
That's what they are. Like, Villanova not getting the tournament last year. Like, oh my god. But UMass.
It feels on the right day. Like UMass can like.
UMass on the right day. UMass can fuck your shit up.
Yeah, wreck your life. Like really, just bang out and just like you're just like, what just happened?
Remember when they got up like 8-1 on Yale the year?
They still talk about that at Princeton. There was a hush in the audience. People were just like talking in whisper tones, like, "Oh my god, that's you! Hey, did you hear?" So yeah, no.
UMass, like, they're nasty when they can be. I might like Patriots. That's like you still got BU. And on a good Patriot League year, I still think it's the Patriot League because you can get BU, you can get Loyola, you can get Lehigh, you can maybe get Navy. Problem is, it hasn't been a good Patriot League year in like 4 years.
Yeah.
Like, Navy's been up and down. Loyola hasn't been since probably 21. And BU has been steady. Lehigh had 21, but then dropped off. So it's, Patriot feels like, again, like you get it on the right day, like the right year, I think, and I think because the Patriot League is, I feel like, can be kind of top heavy, but like you can get, there's just a lot of programs with that kind of hovering around that 20th range. It's just a matter of, are they going to fall on the other fall side, in which case, not great. Or are they going to fall on the positive side in the end, in the top 20? And honestly, I think it's like it feels like a wash. I don't know that I could pick any of these out of the other. Like, because the problem with the A-10 is St. Bonaventure's got a lot of growing to do at that level. And then Hobart, like, what's Hobart going towards? Whereas, like, I like St. Joe's, and then UMass and High Point's always frisky. Yeah. And the Big East. What Denver is with Brown answers that question. If Denver's back to like a top 10, and then you give Nova, who's still in the top 20, and then you got Marquette is okay. Providence is the Big East is just a lot of questions. Like, there's just a lot of questions on the league. But what's Denver with Matt Brown? What can Benson do at Providence? Marquette with Stimmel, like, man, that last year felt like it should have been so much more. They were just in all of those games, and They did beat Penn State and Michigan. I mean, but how many one-goal games did they lose in Big East play? Like, that's another one. You just got a lot of coaches who've been there at Denver or in the Big East. New hires, like Providence and St. John's both made new hires this past season. Stimmel's been a Marquette for a couple years now. Denver, new. So, like, 3 coaches in the Big East are first or second-year coaches, half the league. And then you got the 2 experienced coaches in the league are Warren and then Corrado. And Nova, like, it's just not. Nova's like a Patriot League school, really. Like, if you look at it, like Nova.
And a great geographic location for lacrosse.
Yes, but rare, aside from getting all those, what's the school called? I forget. Del Barton, all the Del Barton kids. I haven't really been that they do more there than in Philly, really. But that's the but yeah, I think that's a really fascinating thing to look at is that mid-major kind of shuffling. America East is interesting this year too. You got Bryant, Vermont, kind of trying to punch back, extended Fifes, and then you got what's Albany kind of doing. That's an interesting league, I think, too. UMBC's around there.
You asked what was the mid-major team that we're most looking at, and we're going to go with teams outside of the ones we've talked about. I'm going to go with the Utes, Jake. Maybe this is the hot take that proves comes to fruition in May. But I think the Utes they're capable of winning a tournament game. I think they can make a Elite 8 type of run.
Wow, that's spicy. I mean, the one that's capable of winning a tournament game that we haven't mentioned yet, Delaware.
Delaware.
Delaware is doing heavy lifting. Like they are.
Yeah, that because the Colonial is not exactly been on good times except for the Blue Hens.
Army, like you could Patriot, you could say is maybe high major, but like Delaware, like they've got it done in the tournament in a way that Richmond hasn't been able to, and then you got, like Big East as well, like outside of Georgetown, like I mean. Delaware's won a tournament game more recently than all of those. They've come, and then they had they could be Duke. Like, if I had my druthers, like, I get either Delaware in the A10 or maybe the Patriot, just for just for sheer entertainment, interesting, like also because I'd like to see them just get a good schedule. Is Delaware's schedule out? Delaware's got to beef up that. If they can, they got to find a way to beef up that non-con. Because Delaware, man, if they can get out of that play-in and then having to go right into the field. They got Penn this year. They didn't have Penn last year. So that's
no schedule out just yet.
They're playing Penn and they played Hopkins last. They're playing. I think Delaware's off the Hopkins schedule, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they did replace
Penn. And their schedule's still not up there.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe, but yeah, I think they're one to watch. They're the kind of proven quantity. They give off. God, it makes me sick. They give off mid 2010s Towson vibes at the moment.
Yeah,
and Towson does not, which makes me sick to my stomach. It better be this year. If it doesn't happen this year, I'm gonna tear my hair out. Yeah, we gotta restore again. Like we gotta restore the vibes, the feeling. Bring this country back.
Speaking of restoring vibes, and the CAA, what direction I'm heading in here.
Give him hell, Ryan.
This year, the Hofstra Pride finally figure out any goddamn thing.
Ryan, what are you gonna do the day that Big Seth is done? Fly.
Probably purchase a Hofstra Pride mini pack of tickets, and they're overpriced $20.
Ryan's gonna go to Stewart and plant a flag in the middle of the field like he's liberating.
I was gonna say it would be the first day that the flag is fully at the top, as in just half mast.
Allies liberating Rome.
The Dutch, how they just like hugged American soldiers.
That's a band, brother.
Oh boy,
aren't the Hofstra's? Yeah, Hofstra's the Flying Dutchman, aren't they?
They used to be the Flying Dutchman. Now they're the Pride. Though, speaking of Long Island, I'm also kind of curious of Stony Brook. Went 9-7 last year. They were solid in CAA play, just couldn't get past Delaware, but hung within 3 goals of Delaware both times they lost. So Seawolves might play spoiler.
Delaware's favorite. Towson's the one with they got young talent that was good. Like gotta be Towson. Just Delaware Towson could be a real great ride. Maybe there's another question. Is there room for 2 really good programs in the CAA at one time? It might be a good question, but like Delaware and Towson, if you could get them right at their kind of peak, like that'd be a great rivalry. But again, is that possible? Because Delaware fell off in the mid 2010s, right as Towson
went up, and now it's flip flop. Yeah, it hasn't really been a great one since what? UMass years, where UMass was in the mix.
UMass and Towson had a couple years there.
UMass and Towson had a thing. I mean, there was also Delaware. Hofstra was a thing for a bit in the 2000s.
Mm-hmm. Man, I just look back, like, again, Monmouth and Hampton, like, noticed, but like, God, it killed the Thunderdome. Like, it's just not, like, you look back, like, those old, and then when you had Delaware, UMass, Towson, Hofstra, like, really, like, that was a league, man. And I guess in some ways, like, the A10 is sort of spiritually, like, but like, there were no weaknesses, you know, like they were all like in St. Bonaventure, like I hope to get going, but they're kind of weak. Like, but man, that was a league at its time, and I just don't know how you put that together right now with what 7-8 teams in the league. 8, I think they got 8, right? I just don't feel it, but A10 hopefully can kind of get back to that.
All right. And last question, a favorite of ours in recent times from Dr. Robert Seafrost. What SEC school will be the first to add men's lacrosse, and how long do you predict before it happens? I guess Vanderbilt would be it. They've got a decent women's program. Well, I mean, not as good as Florida's women's program, but I feel like a private school in Nashville makes all the sense in the world for if anyone in the South's going to add lacrosse, it would be them. That being said, probably not for another at least 8 years. I don't see it by the end of the 2020s.
I choose say Vandy, but
yeah,
I do think it. No, I agree with you. Like I choose say Vandy, but I think it's going to be kind of within before 2030. Because I just think like we've talked about this a lot. Like Vanderbilt just makes too much. It's a lacrosse school that a men's lacrosse school that just doesn't have a team yet. Like it feels like the perfect kind of school in a new non-hotbed area where I could see lacrosse do. It just feels like Tennessee's kind of a popular place now for people moving into. I think like you're going to have a lot of people who are not originally from Tennessee, maybe from the Northeast, maybe from California or Florida, some other states outside of Tennessee, and I think it's just going to eventually just make sense for them to have a program. Like it looks like they have like 8 more teams. They have 8 women's teams.
They have 6 men's sports, and because I just pulled it up right now.
It felt like 10. Was it like 4 more?
I think it's 10. So it's Vandy has baseball, basketball, cross country, football, golf, and tennis for men's. Basketball, bowling, cross country, golf, women's lacrosse, women's soccer, swimming, spirit, cheer and dance, tennis, and track. So 10 to 6 is a perfect kind of ratio to add men's lacrosse.
And it feels like they could use softball as a sport.
Yeah, an SEC school without softball.
That's what
especially with how good the Vandy baseball team is.
That's what I'm talking about. Like it feels like that's a
boom, easy 1-1 match. Yeah.
right there. Everybody's happy. You have two sports that have large rosters that you can get kids who are willing to
Scholarships.
pay. Yeah, get that rolling. And I think you'd be the first team for men's to get a men's lacrosse team in the SEC. I think that would be kind of like a bragging rights for that. Like it just kind of. Vandy just feels like a school that just should have it. Like it just kind of feels like a perfect fit for them, and kind of something that they could like lord over the other schools. And they probably don't give a shit. It's football only. But in terms of like a SEC school that just kind of just feels right. Like the only other school, like if I'm thinking that it's going to get a program that from the SEC kind of soon. I'd go with Florida or South Carolina. Florida for just the fact that like lacrosse is getting really popular in the state of Florida, and we had the news that Florida State is going to get the women's lacrosse program. I think that Florida got like a men's team, just be another way to be like one step ahead of the Seminoles. South Carolina, Jake, I think we kind of made this joke with all three of us together, but I know Jake and I always talk about like Northeasterners just love South Carolina.
Mm-hmm. And we talked about it. I think one of our
Clemson added a women's team
right there, Jake. And that's what I'm thinking. It's just like this another like not traditional hotbed where seems like there just seems to be movement in that state where people are just kind of getting into lacrosse. And I think South Carolina could be kind of like talking about Vanderbilt, something we've all talked about, like, being the first in your conference to get one, while it may be a little bit difficult in terms of like finding a place to play until the other schools like step up. But it's also a, point of pride and something they could use, like I said, bragging rights, being the first one in the SEC. So, and I think as you have more teams, more schools get teams in that area, be it women's programs. I think just feel like just kind of a natural like just wave or push towards getting a men's program in the SEC before. Like I said, I think before 5 years, because I think it's all going to also come into play with the potential. I think it's officially the nickname, right? The Big Split, like the Pac-5 or Power 5 schools, or Power 3 or 4, whatever the number is, finally splitting off from the NCAA and creating like their own kind of organization. And I just see if you're those kind of schools and you're able to just create your own rules, that there's a lot of schools that want to have programs but maybe just can't for whatever reason. But if they're able to like set up a whole platform, the new NCAA, or an extension of what was NCAA, maybe that will allow them to have some more flexibility to add these types of programs. So number one, I'm with Ryan, Vanderbilt, but if we take in other schools, I think Florida or South Carolina may be the other two schools that could potentially get a team within the next 10 years.
I'll shift the question a bit, kinda, I guess. There will be at least one women's lacrosse team from the SEC added in next by 2030. At least one, maybe two, I think. Like, I think women's will have it. Men's is a different story. Women's, I think, definitely have it. I'm looking at just like men's sports sponsored, and then you compare it to like women's. Like Florida, the tricky thing is they got 11 women's. Like Florida sponsors every women's sport, like except for equestrian. Like, I mean, like it's like if you're trying to like match up, like like we say 1-to-1, like what is Florida going to add as far as a women's sport goes? If they want to match it,
an equestrian team's not going to get you 11 and a half, 13 and a half.
Like, where they sponsor and Florida sponsor every men's sport. Florida, the numbers. I'm looking at one here, and we're talking like give off the vibe of lacrosse school.
Austin, Texas.
Ole Miss is like Virginia in Mississippi. Like,
the preppiest school you could imagine.
Ole Miss, Ole Miss is like Ole Miss and Virginia are just, it's like peas in a pod. Like,
if you're looking at women's sports sponsored here, Ole Miss sponsors 9. That's room to add more women's sports. Like gymnastics, that could be something to add, maybe. Or if you're Ole Miss, and you have, could you add both? Because they got 8 men's and 9 women's. That feels like something that's workable. Like add another women's sport. Maybe you add women's lacrosse. That gets you to and then maybe that could get you to add men's. I could see, in terms of just looking at the number, like Mississippi State's also another one, but Mississippi State, I don't know if,
support. I think they have as big of the budget as Ole Miss.
Yeah, but Ole Miss, I can see that. I think that could be one as well. I'm just trying to make the numbers work. Is like that looks like potentially something. And and then we're talking, like Texas, also not gymnastics. And Texas is 10-9. That's tricky. So maybe that could be something. Vandy feels like, like softball, or draw it up right like that. So I think I'll say, I think we have 2030 is a long time. I mean, that's, to be fair, if you said in 2016 that the biggest school to add men's lacrosse would be, we get Utah and like nothing else, that would have felt like not believable, like definitely like coming off sort of like the age of expansion we kind of got, definitely would have been buzzkill. So women's, I think they get there. I think it's gonna happen. I think it's, especially if you get that split, and I think you get maybe a renewed investment into these non-revenue sports. I think they're gonna look at it and be like, why aren't we doing that? Like we can make it work. I think, I don't know, 2030, but like 10 years, I think it's possible. Women's, I think definitely is going to change. Like I think it's possible. So especially with like, the thing is that with consolidation into these like just bigger, but like, fewer conferences, I think that kind of helps it maybe a little, like it just, because you get more schools in the leagues with like, who have had it. And that always helps. Like, like the Big 12, for example, like now that they have more schools who have women, like they're sponsoring women's lacrosse, that makes men's lacrosse possible. Like when it was just like none of the schools were doing it, like it's so hard. Like Utah has men's lacrosse and they're now in the Big 12. Like no Big 12 school before that had lacrosse. Like it wasn't a thing. Now it's going to be in the league. And so like you can kind of build off that. And like the Pac for, had women's lacrosse, we never got it men's, but maybe this is what gets Stanford added. I don't know, like how, like, that they're in the ACC where it's a thing, is like.
Stanford's in the ACC.
SMU lacrosse.
Stanford having to just men's lacrosse, just going to freaking. They might as well just like do online classes. just establish a satellite campus in North Carolina. That would rule. That would rock. I'd love
that. All right,
so,
let's. Yeah.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, as a subscriber, I was wondering if I could throw in a question for my friends.
Yes, please, sir.
Yeah, sure. You are a subscriber to the Crosse Commission, so go ahead.
I'm not only, a part manager with you guys.
It feels like a handle at both ends of it.
What's that? It's like, I'm not just a president of Haircut for Men. I'm also a client. The commercials. All right, so this is actually for both of you. I use I don't know if you would classify your favorite sports, but like kind of similar questions. When Jake Wrestling here to kind of hit these from you guys, to not to be dramatic or whatever. It would just be more fun just to get your true attention. And Ryan, I use F1 for you. So they're kind of multi-part. Hopefully you can just have a little fun for them. Number one, for both. Ryan, Jake, or what got you in wrestling? Ryan, what got you in F1? Jake, sub question for you: what present day star could cross over into wrestling? Ryan, could one of these celebrity drivers ever make a podium in an F1 race? I'm thinking of Fassbender, right? I think he's like try to be a rider. And it's kind of similar for both of you. What wrestler, Jake, or what driver, Ryan, movie hasn't been made yet that you would like to see, and who would you have starring it?
Well, for me, for Formula One, Formula One is not even my favorite type of racing. It's NASCAR, but Formula One, I'll answer the questions with. So Formula One, NASCAR was the gateway drug into Formula One, I guess. I watched NASCAR, and then Speed Channel also had the Formula One races. It was a good way to start your Sunday morning watching the F1 on Speed Channel. That's how I got into that. Same with IndyCar to a lesser extent. I mean, IndyCar really, it's just the Indy 500 that's worth watching, and they managed to make things even more of a joke than NASCAR and F1 do. And God knows how much they make jokes out of things. But yeah, Formula One, basically just came with watching NASCAR just as a motorsports fan, and stuck with it. No, I do not think any celebrity drivers can podium in Formula One. Even if you give them a Red Bull,
Paul Newman.
You still got all that talent that you're still going up against. Like, you can give a celebrity a Red Bull, but are they going to out racecraft a Lewis Hamilton or a Lando Norris or a Charles Leclerc?
Who is the best? Is there a good right now that's talented at that? I don't.
Fassbender, right? Isn't it? I just saw The Killer, and everyone's like, he took 4 years to be a car racer. Stopped to make.
I mean, the one celebrity that could do something with it is dead.
Paul Newman's dead. But...
Paul Newman. Podium.
Podium in Le Mans. The 24 hours of Le Mans.
The 24 hours of Daytona.
Second. Paul Newman was a race car driver. He was a wheelman. Yes, Fassbender did Le Mans twice. Did not finish, and then finished 51st. And then he competed in European Le Mans series. It's a different type of car.
Different type of car. Yeah,
he was okay. I mean, he did pretty decently, I guess. Could do Formula. You put him in a Formula One car, he might be able to drive it. He might be able to actually complete laps. Could he no, God no, not even a chance. But could he if he's got that experience, could you put him in an F1 car and could he drive? Maybe. It's possible, I guess. But no, podium not even a chance on earth.
And then that last question was, what was the last question again?
It doesn't have to be F1. You can make whatever motor sport. But what driver movie hasn't been made yet that you would like to see, and who would you have starred?
For Formula One, I would say
Mario.
I like the one that the Pitt movie's interesting to me. It feels like it's got potential.
That has potential. You know what would be interesting? Maybe Jacques Villeneuve. Fish out of water, Canadian in a European series. His dad was a legendary driver, was killed tragically. And that whole championship battle with Michael Schumacher, where everyone was up against him and still coming out on top and winning the championship. That could be an interesting one. You'll find whatever French Canadian to play him. Don't ask me who. But I think that he would be a fascinating story for Formula One, just because, again, for a North American to come into a European series and have the odds stacked against him with, in that battle with Schumacher and still come out on top, with Schumacher trying to deliberately take him out too. So that could make for some good drama. Motorsports in general too.
Is this real life? Or
it does feel like odd that there hasn't been an Andretti movie though. There hasn't been one on Mario Andretti. You are right about that. Like Mario Andretti's run everything too, like IndyCar, Formula One, NASCAR. He won the Daytona 500.
One of 3 drivers ever to win
in all 3 of them.
In all 3. But he's one of only 3. Won an Indy, won the 500, won.
Yeah, he's the only one that's won the Indy and Daytona 500s.
And
so it is kind of odd that there is, like, there's been some like short documentaries of him just talking about his story and stuff, but like an actual biopic of him would be fascinating. And again, another case of you got an American. I think he raced on the Italian flag, but otherwise, for all intents and purposes, an American running these series as well.
Was Mario born in America?
I
think he was born in Italy.
Yeah, I think he was born in. But he was born in Italy.
He made his.
His racer.
But
he made his name as an American.
Yeah, as a racer.
Croatia.
Motovan,
Croatia.
Yeah, technically from Croatia. Yeah.
Oh, that's where he was born. But I think he grew up in Italy.
Yeah, current day. Exactly. It was there. It was called Montana, Italy. Now it's present day Croatia.
Gotcha.
When he was born as an Italian.
Yeah, Andretti would be amazing. And then NASCAR. I mean,
it's the best movie you can make.
Yeah.
Jeff Gordon. Just kidding.
Could be interesting.
Gordon could be interesting as a as the framework for a movie of like the older driver with like the younger guy coming into his, here's what you could do. Like
David Pearson would be a good remake.
Or
Cale Yarborough.
If you took like Days of Thunder.
Days of Thunder predated. It basically predicted what was to come with Gordon and Earnhardt.
Yeah, so like I think if you did a new one, and you'd have to get someone to play Dale. Or you could just kind of like use the framework. Like Tom Cruise, like quote, is now like, now he's the veteran, and he's like the man out. Kind of like what he did with Top Gun. He's like the older guy, and like he gets someone like kind of like coming in, who's that young. Like I think you could kind of do something with that.
Who would you want in the Earnhardt versus Gordon movie?
God, who could play Earnhardt?
Yeah.
Gary Oldman?
I will say for as
Gordon, Gordon would be you need a young guy.
Chalamet
feels like Chalamet. That could be because Gordon was fascinating in that like he was new and he was different, but he wasn't like Gordon's person. He doesn't have a big personality. So like Chalamet, I feel like you could kind of like that feels like what it is, like it's not a big personality, like, but he's got, young and like attractive. That's what, Gordon, like he was, different look. He could do that. Earnhardt Dale would be,
like as much as the movie was panned, Barry Pepper did a good job of Earnhardt in that ESPN biopic. Again, the movie kind of fell flat a bit, but he had a good performances. But
what's the age difference? 25 years, 30?
Earnhardt was born in 41 or 51? 51.
So yeah, that's about.
Gordon was born in I think the 70s. Let me see, 71. So 20 years difference.
20 years, okay. So that's workable. All right, Chalamet is Gordon. I'm trying to think of a.
He doesn't have the
45-year-old.
He doesn't have the. He doesn't have like the mustache. Like you need the mustache. That's the key. Like you need
a mustache for Earnhardt.
But like as far as a personality type, I feel like Ed Harris could maybe do it. It's just kind of like that, like old, like stern, like nonplussed, kind of vibe. Like, but Ed Harris doesn't, I don't know if he fits the look. You know who could do it? Bardem.
Ooh, Harvey. Yeah,
I think he could do it. Again, like, older. He can give up the, like, just that was Arnold's thing. He was just, he's the last cowboy, and he's just extremely nonplussed, by Gordon's thing, and like, he's like, what the, like, and he kind of like he denied that it was kind of like happening. He's like, he kind of gave off vibe like this wasn't bothering him, but of course it was bothering him because Gordon was beating him. Like,
Yeah, I think that's a good NASCAR idea. And then I guess like one of the older guys like David Pearson or Cale Yarborough would be cool too. Because I think like Petty's been played out a little bit, but I think like one of those two with Pearson or Yarborough would be cool.
Jake.
Wrestling.
Got you into wrestling?
Got it as a kid. I think like most people do. And then picked it back up probably like 10 years ago. Kind of like I got out for a couple years, and then like late teenager I got back into it.
Is it the storylines or the athleticism, the charisma?
I just find it as like I just find it interesting as like how much you can kind of like. It's just a, people refer to it as an art form, and in a sense it is. Like I think that's true. I think a lot of times people do that because they're just trying to like find a way to like why they like it, or like something like, like I just view it as its own very distinct thing. Like I don't necessarily think it's not a TV show. I mean, it is a TV show, but like it doesn't have to be. Like it doesn't have to be a television show. Like, I mean, today it is a television show, but it doesn't have to be. It's not. I don't just sort of view it as like art. I just view it as a very distinctly unique thing. And I find it fascinating the way it like. There's very few things that transfer across cultures, and like it's big in the United States, it's big in Mexico, it's big in Japan, and has been huge in Japan. It's reasonable. It's big. It kind of reasonably. It has in Canada. It's been at times big in the United Kingdom. So like it's just fascinating, I guess, how that kind of like transfers across different, kind of countries and cultures. And I just it's when it's good, it's a very unique thing to watch. Like when it's really good, and the way you can get attached to. I always view it like in a sense of like you can never really guarantee your favorite sports team's gonna like win a championship, or that you're gonna get the satisfaction you want out of it. But generally with wrestling, if you're attached to somebody and like you have a favorite, like you can see it happen. Like you can see them get to the top or win the big match or win the championship. Like, and it brings kind of like that feeling of like sports, but it's more guaranteed you're gonna get the happy ending. Like, or at least you should if it's done right. That's the point of it. And I think that's what for a lot of people what is interesting is like, it's like your favorite sports team. You can watch your favorite sports team for 100 years and never win a title. But, your favorite wrestler, you got to have 5 of them and they could all get whatever that, whatever is the right end to that story or what is, the happy kind of ending. You can get that. And I think that's, what makes it really interesting or like really fun kind of for me to watch and kind of sort of emotionally, kind of satisfying. So I think, and yeah, there's lots of different. It can exist in so many different forms and ways that it's. I sort of like the way I think I see other people put this is like, you could watch nothing new. You could take 5 years and not watch nothing new that comes out, and you wouldn't get even close to watching all of the old stuff. That's like that you could watch old wrestling like for forever, like it's like movies or television shows in that way. Like you watch nothing new, but you just watch old stuff and you could, be just as entertained kind of by it and, see so many different things and how it's changed, but still not even scratch the surface. I think that's kind of fascinating too. But yeah, like on just the root base of it, it's like, it's something you can get invested in and have an emotional, sufficient, like satisfactory kind of out of it, I think like sports kind of in that way. As for what celebrity hasn't done it that could be good at it, I mean, they get a lot of celebrities these days into it, like, and the thing is, like, they all, it's not like it used to be, like, they all train now reasonably, like they put them through training, like they make sure that they have a, decent match. You get anybody with an athletic background, they have a better shot at it, because like Logan Paul's sort of like the example of it, of like, he has an athletic background to some degree, and so like he's very, very, very good at it, like legitimately. I would always say that, like, if you can get someone who's just a star, who has just like a true kind of magnetic personality and quality, that cares, I think that can kind of work. Like Bad Bunny is like he's not like great wrestler or anything, but like he cares, so he's willing to do a lot. And also, like, if you like, it's on YouTube, Twitter, like all the time. Like someone will repost when he did his like entrance for his match in Puerto Rico, and it's like, holy shit! Like that's what's cool to me, is like just the atmosphere. Like he came off like a fucking superstar, because he is like he's the like highest selling recording artist in the world. So like, you put him in that environment where like it's designed for audience, live audience interaction, and so like, yeah, I think anyone who's, I don't know if there's anyone in particular, but like someone who is, of a reasonable athletic background, who is a genuine like star, like that's like, I think they can, you can kind of ride that like, atmosphere a long way. And so that's kind of what I would say. Movie, the Von Erichs one is, I thought that's a good topic for like a wrestling movie. They're gonna do. I think that'll be fantastic. I mean, the reviews look very good. The Iron Claw is what. So,
that's the brothers one that you were talking to me about, and the dad. Okay.
Yeah. I think that's gonna be a fabulous thing. Along those lines, you could do the Harts, like the Hart family, which they've had a lot of tragedy kind of as well, but like kind of like sort of like that the whole thing kind of like, it's just the family of and like all the people they trained as well.
This may be cheating for suggesting, because he's not technically a wrestler, but Vince. I thought like that would be kind of a fascinating.
If you could get it like as an unvarnished story, yes, I think he's a fascinating, human being, and like kind of the way he like, just the way he put it all together, like taking the company from his dad, like and then trying to take it nationally, and like the way he kind of like, I mean, just that kind of tension with those folks, and then trying to like the way what he got it to in like the late 90s. Like in the late 90s, it was genuine like pop culture in a substantive actual way. Like it was huge, and it penetrated pop culture as part of the zeitgeist. To then where it ended, where like it wasn't, people weren't as satisfied with it. People like didn't think he was as good as as Johnny wasn't, but like and then framing it like with that, to then obviously the big downfall with Vince is fucking Logan Roy. I mean, I don't like Vince is Logan Roy. Like
I was thinking of success. I was like, maybe this could. I think you'd make it like a series. I think it could be like a Netflix show, like the or kind of like The Crown. You know how there's like different Queen Elizabeths, like this era, like different Vinces. Young Vince kind of taking over, and then like growing into this behemoth businessman. But, who would you want to star?
Oh God, I don't know. I mean, it's fascinating. God, you could do it.
This is kind of a big guy. I mean, maybe he's shorter, and that's why he looks jacked. But like he's
he's legit over 6 feet.
I was gonna say, he seemed like a man.
Like like you need, or at least I'm pretty sure he's over 6 feet. I don't. Yeah, I don't have to think about that one, but yeah, like you could do it, and like him, like essentially, he's probably 6. It says 6'2", so he's probably 6. Like I would say, just like would it, like essentially the company being groomed at any one point to be taken over by one of his kids or stepkids, and like than the way he just basically like about faced the last couple of years and pushed them all out of the picture. So like to the point where like at one point it looked like there was no future other than just Vince, and then the way that just changed on a dime and then like what's this like? How does that change on a dime in 9 months? Well, you pushed all the people out who were supposed to take over, and then they were out of the family, and it's like, oh, I wonder how that information got out. You know, like I mean, like it is. I mean, they asked like Seth Rollins about it. He's like, you know, what's going on with all this drama? He's like, have you seen the show Succession? And it's like it kind of is like that. I mean, so that'd be fascinating. I think, you know, doing something on a down like Mexico, I think would be interesting because Mexico is the last place where it's not real, but you know, in Mexico, like when they do a big match in Mexico, the way they do it is it's like you put up your mask, you put up your hair, usually. And it's like, well, that's real because at the end of it, some motherfucker's losing his fucking hair. like that guy's at the end is gonna actually be bald, or he's gonna lose his mask, and you're actually gonna find out. You like in Mexico, like when they wear the mask, like they don't publish their name. Like it's like they conceal their like who the like the born legitimate birth name, the whole nine, and so like that's real. Either you lose your hair or you lose your identity is revealed essentially. Like you act like we actually find out who the real person is. Like that's in a sense that's real. Like that's actual like that's gonna happen. Whereas and so I think something like that would be very I think doing it like that is there's real. If you ever like really like people like to think like what wrestling match would you recommend? Like I don't none. Like if you don't like it, there's a reason you don't like it. Like I don't know what like something in particular to show to you to like be like this is how you get into it. Like I don't know how to do that. But you want to watch like what at its like real most heated like in Mexico. Like when it's that like that's the people are really invested in that. Like they're So I think something like that. I think that'd be interesting. It's like following, like a build up to something like that. Like a mask. They call it a Poistus match, like a mask version. Yeah, I think that's probably what I would do.
Appreciate that answer, Zoyce.
There you go. All right, and then we'll wrap things up because it is Thanksgiving. Let's play overrated, underrated holidays. Shall we start off with the underrated ones because those are cooler takes?
Absolutely.
All right. Underrated holiday. I'd have to say the 4th of July. I mean, you think about it, 4th of July, it's kind of like a summer kind of Thanksgiving or Christmas because you have the family over. It's warm weather. You're outdoors with it. Nice party atmosphere. Haven't really, have any other big party holidays around that time, maybe Memorial Day, but otherwise, everyone's off. Kids are off from school. It's kind of like the beginning of the summer, at least up here. And there's a lot you can do with the 4th of July as well. A lot of different activities with being outdoors. So I think the 4th of July is underrated. I think it's a pretty solid party type of day.
I went with Memorial Day.
Yeah.
That is a little bit out of this is not pandering to our audience, obviously.
What if it was?
Like I'm Bryce Harper, just wearing like Iverson jerseys every day. But yeah, I definitely feel like it's. I think because 4th of July is what was it, 6 weeks, 5 weeks, depending on when the holiday falls. Like a way that takes, the gravitational pull of 4th of July takes away a little bit of but like I feel like it should be like is the unofficial kickoff of the summer season. School's ending for the kids are in school, like in college, like it's their first big holiday after exams are done. like I always felt like it should just be a bigger thing, but it's just not. It feels like 4th of July. You get the fireworks, you get everybody's Mount Rushmore. This is just a huge, rightfully so. It's the day celebration for America. But I always feel like Memorial Day, like maybe because of the somber nature of the holiday, takes a little bit of the festivity vibe away. But if I'm going for a holiday that I think needs a little bit more love, I'm gonna go Memorial Day.
I'm in agreement on Memorial Day. Overrated.
I will say it might be beneficial if we swap Memorial Day and Veterans Day. Maybe make what's now Veterans Day, the more solemn day for Remembrance Day, in alignment with Remembrance Day, and Veterans Day for the celebration.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a good shout. Overrated. Any of like the I don't know, like St. Patrick's Day, Cinco de Mayo,
drinking holiday.
You just go get drunk. I'm like, listen, like for someone who doesn't do it, like it has no additive value for me. And I just think, I'm not saying anybody who loves it, like if you love it, obviously like fantastic. But like, I think the holidays were like you say, like you can get more, the family around, or like at least friends, like more people. And obviously, you can go out drinking with your friends, but like, if someone in the friend group doesn't drink, like it's like okay, like what is like what's the what's the deal, here?
Yeah, at least St. Patrick's Day for me, it's a cultural holiday, so it's traditional foods, corned beef and cabbage. We don't even need the drinking aspect.
It's like Cinco de Mayo is like friggin' just white, just like
it's
American just appropriating like Mexican.
Not even.
I love how many people like it's Mexican Independence Day, is it? No,
they won a battle against France.
Yeah, like that's it. Like it's just like. I mean, in terms of Mexican like holidays, it's like at best third. Because
it's like when you find out that Hanukkah's like.
So like
it's like when you find out,
like at least two.
Yeah, it's like when you find out that Hanukkah's like the third biggest Jewish holiday, and it's like,
yeah.
Wait, I thought it was on par with Christmas with us. No.
No, yeah. So yeah, I would say either one of those. Yeah, like I just don't know what you get out of it if you're not drinking it. Like as so personally, like, I don't like it's. But it's a whole. I don't know. That's just kind of like a different. Like I could want to kind of different thing about that. Like the way we kind of frame so much social occasion around like drinking, and it's like it's. If you're not in that kind of group, it's a bit, it's weird. I think there's a societal pressure kind of added to that, but like nonetheless, yeah, I don't know much I get out of like those. I guess New Year's kind of along that, like, I go back to work on January 2nd. It's like what?
Yeah, it's like
it's like okay.
Yeah, like New Year's Eve, it's like wow. Yeah, it's staying up like after you're like past 27, the thrill's gone. New Year's Eve.
I've never had. I'm a boring guy, but like you get to.
Like at first, like when I was in my 20s, I'm like, wow, the college football playoff semifinals on New Year's Eve. This is a blast me. And I was like, yeah.
That's the thing. I never felt that way. Like to me, when they said it, I'm like, what's the like? All the like sports writers are like, they can't do this. I'm like, for what? What are you doing? I'm 45 years old. Complained about them putting a friggin'
into Bruce Springsteen.
Like whatever, dude. So yeah, I guess maybe New Year's too. All the big three I love. I mean, to different degrees, but like I think they're all good. All have great. 4th of July, good. If you got Hanukkah instead, like I'm sure value to that. Or your different, specific religious, kind of different, obviously aside from Christianity. Ramadan, but like, yeah, maybe New Year's as well. Throw into that. Overrated.
I'll go. I felt this for a little while now. Halloween. I think Halloween has just been bastardized by.
So what? What was the original intent aside from
I think it was just like little kids.
Oh, okay, fair.
Going out and just having a little fun with costumes, maybe a little mischief night if you're from Jersey, the night before. But like, it's supposed to just be like a good-natured walk around the neighborhood, family, friends, to take pictures, grandma, visit everybody, has some fun. So, and now what it's just turned into just like, partly because of capitalism, I'm sure, but just like, it's just it's what it's turned into, like drunken mayhem. Really, I mean, like, listen, I'm
like every other holiday now.
I'm no teetotaler over here, so I'm not trying to be a poser or act like I don't drink. But I would say, like, just what it's turned into, just it's absolutely just a trashy kind of like holiday, like it feels like this, like it should just be just like, let's give some back to the kids, like just let the kids have it. It's just kind of something you kind of, I'd say maybe 18. Maybe that's too old for trick or treating, but like maybe like 13, 14 start with the trick or treating, maybe freshman, second, sophomore year of high school, and post college, like I couldn't imagine dressing up and going to a party with a costume. I just don't, like, after like 22, 23, like I think you gotta put the holiday. So some people love it, man. Like they just deck out the whole holiday. And I'm not the people who go out and put signs and lights and all that stuff and make their house inviting for trick or treaters. I think that's awesome and great, but yeah, I think like the Halloween parties after you left college, like it's, I think those could just stop. Yeah, completely.
I think I mean,
I think up to high school you can trick or treat. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
And then college, if you really want to do your party or whatever, sure, it's college.
Yeah, I'm cool with college parties.
Like, but like, yeah, after college, it's a little like.
Okay. I mean, I like the whimsical part of Halloween, but like, to chime in with the Safe's point too about it becoming a drinking holiday, nothing's worse than the parents who go trick or treating with a beer in hand. That's become like the popular trend. Like, come on, stop making everything a drinking holiday.
Absolutely.
I'd say overrated. I'm not going to go with Easter because that would be blasphemous, but Easter's kind of boring, but it still serves its purpose.
Unless it has the Masters on.
Yeah, if it's Easter on a Masters weekend, it's great. If it's an Easter during the NBA and Stanley Cup playoffs, it's also great. If it's like this upcoming year where it's just on a random Sunday, it's like, I mean, it's nice. It's a nice religious day. I'll go with, though, the most overrated Labor Day. It's more of a day of mourning. It's the end of summer. It's the last day of my summer vacation. There's nothing to celebrate. It friggin' sucks. The first school night, you got to go to bed early. It stinks.
I mean, I do kind of like, because we go back the week before. We go back the week before Labor Day. So I do kind of like that we go in for a week and then we get like an immediate 3-day weekend. I kind of rock with that. Like, I think that's.
But like, but even before I got into teaching,
it's not a thing. Like, what do we celebrate? Like, we're celebrating labor. Like, okay, get out of here.
Yeah, it's a bunch of blue check Twitter accounts that are now all on Blue Sky. We're tying this all back to the beginning of the podcast that go on and on about yay workers. It's like, no, who cares?
Some guy, it's just some hipster screaming about the proletariat from like
it's like no
loft in Chelsea, New York, or like some super Tony area of like San Francisco or something.
Yeah, it's like
what? Get out of here.
No. Yeah, it's the end of summer. It's like I love the fall. It's the end of summer. It's depressing. And what are you going to do? You got if you're
nothing. You're not going to do it.
You got school next day, and then you got work the next day. So it's not even like, oh yeah,
congratulations.
Like, if Labor Day was on a Friday, if Labor Day was on a Friday, have a good cookout and stay out late and everything. Labor Day's on a Monday and it's a work night. It defeats the purpose.
Also, nobody's off. Like who's we're off. government employees. But work, you at Best Buy, you at Walmart, get in there.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service. Here's a sale so we can get more people to come to the store and make your life harder.
That may be the title of the pod. Thank you for your service.
That's very cool. That. All right.
So thank you for listening. Hope you have a very happy Thanksgiving. Subscribe to the Crosse Commission on Patreon. You could also subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Otherwise, you can follow me on Twitter at RyanMcD29.
I'm at Jake_Zahn. I think I'm on Blue Sky. I think I'm on Blue Sky like at Jake Nazar. I think maybe. I don't know. I'll check that out. I'll get back to you.
I'm at Erie_Barrister.
And we thank you for listening again. Happy Thanksgiving. And as always, because yes, people also treat Thanksgiving as a drinking holiday, stay hydrated.
Becky Lynch for president. She's back.